and actually pay attention would be hit them in the wallet. I mean, Van der Ven, I'd fine him 2 weeks' wages for the way he acted on that pitch. I'd probably fine the whole team a week's wages for the way they played, apart from maybe Morani. I mean, Vicario wasn't the worst player on the pitch. Normally, he's a nightmare. He makes Bobby Mims look like Pat Jennings. Do you know what I mean? It's like...
I mean, I was disappointed in Van der Ven. I don't look... Obviously, I've seen the videos and the context can maybe get taken out. I don't really know the exact moment in the game what he was asking him, but he was... Igor Tudor was obviously asking him to step up, and Van der Ven just kind of dismissed him, which didn't look great, I'll be honest. But
yeah, but he did the same. He did the same thing to Frank, didn't he? Thomas Frank. He was like dismissing Thomas Frank. Him and
the thing is, Van der Ven is too good for this team. Like, there's no getting away from it. He's way too good to be playing at this level of football.
But you need him.
We need him. That's the problem. Like, we need him right now. Like, I get it. I get it, Van der Ven. Like, you're playing in a team that you don't deserve to be in. Like, he's way better than this. But and right now. He has to swallow it. He has to swallow it, and he has to be a leader, and he has to deal with it. Like, all of them have to. And this is the problem. There's some good players in this team.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range, supporting van owners to get the job done. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines, just coming up to 2 minutes past 10. I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. Eddie Howe has no doubt Newcastle can raise their game, whoever they get in the Champions League last 16.
We have to believe in ourselves. I think we've seen the best of ourselves this year when we've gone into cup games and one-off games where we've been able to really rise to whatever challenge we've had in front of us.
It's either Chelsea or Barcelona for Newcastle next. The draw's on Friday. Tonight, Real Madrid versus Benfica is live on talkSPORT. In the Championship, James Morrison's in interim charge of West Brom. That's following Eric Ramsey's sacking. Former Swansea forward Lee Trundle told us co-owner Snoop Dogg's arrival at their stadium gave a playoff-level atmosphere, but Preston boss Paul Heckingbottom hardly noticed the famous rapper.
No, I think just the smell of weed in the tunnel is the only thing that we realise something different.
A sellout crowd saw Liam Cullen's 95th minute equaliser for the Swans. Meanwhile, Hull City boss Sergei Yakirovich told us their stadium share with Rugby League's Hull FC is forcing him to change tactics.
This is impossible because between Chelsea and today they had 2 games, I think, 2 trainings.
Yakirovich told us it's difficult to control the ball at the MKM, but Hull City are up to 4th with a 4-2 win over Derby, and a frustrated Kim Helberg says Middlesbrough's home draw with Leicester feels like a loss. Coventry could go 5 points clear with a win at Sheffield United, live on talkSPORT 2 tonight.
talkSPORT News.
Fly tipping is up 1.26 million incidents in the last year, and only 3 NHS trusts met cancer targets last year. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit, where we've got more premium tyres than the number of times you'll hear, "Ooh, it's a bit nippy" this winter. Book today at quickfit.com.
Across Scotland and Northern Ireland, cloudy with spells of rain. That rain moving into parts of Western England and Wales through the afternoon. Elsewhere, very mild, spells of sunshine.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy. We are live on talkSPORT. So Newcastle make it 6 Premier League teams from 6 in the Champions League last 16. Will English dominance seed itself into the latter stages where it really matters? Meanwhile, from the special one to the silent one, is Jose Mourinho a coward? Also today, are boxing's power brokers heading for the courts? Where do you draw the line in the name of tribalism? How many more British boardrooms will fall for the MLS? Can Spurs realign their pulling power? Plus, we'll be joined right here in studio very shortly by WBO heavyweight champion Fabio Wardley. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy. We're all live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
So, Danny, there I was in Malaga, southern Spain at the weekend. Lovely, beautiful weather. Beautiful.
Simon.
And I thought, no, not with Simon. No. But I knew Simon, my friend and colleague, was just along the coast in Marbella, so that lunch would be nice. So I sent a message. Are you still up for lunch if you fancy that?
Which I'd said no to previously.
Okay. And I wait, and I wait, and I wait. And then it comes in. I'm going to struggle to make lunch tomorrow. I'm in Gib in the morning, Gibraltar, presumably. Paddle in the afternoon, paddle tennis, presumably. I'll text you tomorrow. Did he? Nothing. Not so much as a cheap. Anyway, it was Marbella. Good morning.
He is allowed a break from you occasionally.
It was nice and warm down there, wasn't it?
Simon, it was beautiful, I have to say. Oh, boy, what a great place to go for a quick break. Down Malaga, lovely,
beautiful
isn't it?
City.
Beautiful place.
Moors, built by the Moors back in many centuries ago. Beautiful architecture, beautiful port.
Yeah, loved it. Very, very
and
nice.
not somewhere I went down to.
I've got a place there as well.
Yeah, shame I missed you. I didn't miss everybody else, though. I mean, I was out on a little boat trip for an hour. All I got was, where's Simon? Where's Simon? It was great, though. Very nice. Danny, I tell you what, a Spanish second division game, sellout, Malaga Albacete on Sunday night, 1-0 Malaga. Great, really enjoyed it.
You are romantic, you.
Isn't it?
Danny Lorenzo, there's a name for you. Young Danny Lorenzo, midfielder. You heard it. Remember
the talent scout over there.
I've been lucky. I've watched, we all have watched football all over the planet, I'm sure, and you do get a different feel and experience when you go to different places.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. And while I was down there, and you were down there, you were back before me, and now you've been wrestling with Martin Keown. What has got into his head about Goldstein?
No, I haven't. I mean, I think Sam was. I mean, Martin decided, unbeknownst to me, to have a meeting before the show that they weren't going to discuss Andy Goldstein, and the first thing that came out of his mouth was Andy Goldstein. I had no idea what he was talking about, quite frankly. But Martin, I think Luke had been away. He'd grown a pair. He's no more eunuch when Luke's not here.
Yes.
And so he decided to go on one of his little expeditions.
Right.
Which myself and Sam had no view on, really, but we were sat there, and I said to him, it feels like, a bit like you and I, Jim, sometimes it feels like we're ganging up on Martin. But I said to Martin in the break, it's difficult not to gang up on you because you talk such utter bilge. And it feels like I desperately want us not to be seen to be two-handing you, tag-teaming you. But when you talk this utter drivel, it makes either someone have to compromise their view, prostitute themselves and feel empathetic towards you, which neither I or Jim do, and neither did Sam, or we sit there going, Martin, what are you talking about? And then it looks like a pile-on.
Exactly. I don't know.
But it was fine. It was fine.
Of course. Listen, we'll look forward to seeing Martin. I don't think it's Martin on Monday, is it? No, I think it's Emmanuel Petit on Monday who's going to be joining us. Danny, good morning.
Morning.
Good to see you, mate. A lot to get through. We're going to be joined by Fabio Wardley in studio very shortly. In May, he gets in the ring with Daniel Dubois. That's going to be some tear up, that, I think, Simon.
Indeed.
Fabio's going to join us very shortly. Danny, Newcastle beat Carrick 9-3 in aggregate. They make it 6 Premier League teams from 6 into the last 16. I'm going to put it out there. Should the last 16 be the bare minimum for Premier League teams in this competition? Anyway, Newcastle are there, and Eddie's delighted.
This competition's an amazing thing for us this year, and you just never know what surprises football can bring you. We'll just attack everything and try and do our best because we want to go as far as we can, and why not? I think we're good enough to do it. We can rate, and we have raised our game. There's no denying that. At times this season, even in the Carabao Cup, I thought we produced some really good performances. Sort of in the one-off games, the disappointment for us has been when we've returned to the Premier League and we're desperate for the consistency there. We haven't been able to do that.
I love that. Like, we're just going to go for it. We're going to attack anything that moves virtually. The last 16 draw, Danny, takes place Friday. Newcastle, Chelsea or Barcelona? I mean, how far will they get?
Well, I mean, both those ties would be difficult, especially as I think they've got to play away second, which is never easy, never the easier route. But you never know. I mean, I remember Tottenham getting to the final with Poch. Nobody gave them a chance. Even when Liverpool won it in 2005, that year they were poor in the league. You know, they had a terrible domestic season. It's a difficult place to go, Newcastle. And when they've got everybody fit and everybody at it, they can mix their game up. They're physical. Their away form worries me a little bit. I mean, against the better teams, that's going to be tough for them, whoever they get. But I would imagine that Eddie, looking at the two teams, would probably prefer Chelsea.
Is this a year, Simon? An English dominance will seed itself into the latter stages where it really matters.
Should do, shouldn't it? I mean, we constantly talk about the quality of the Premier League, where we lose sight of the fact that ultimately a lot of that is the financial quality rather than necessarily just the performances of the team on the field. But we certainly do have the sides that are amongst the best sides in Europe as we sit today.
Yeah.
You've seen a re-emergence of Bayern Munich in the last 18 months from that period where they lost the league and lost their foothold in winning the league every single year, which I assume is massively advantageous for the Bundesliga, one team dominating it. And we've now got sides that are operating at high levels. Now, do I expect us to win when it comes to knockout games against an elite PSG or a Barcelona side? Not sure. But to go deep in this tournament, absolutely, with the ratio of teams that are in it, the quality of these teams, one of them being Arsenal, that have just strolled through their group stages. Now, that doesn't really mean much to some extent, because if we want to reverse the argument, look what PSG did last year. They didn't stroll through the group stages. They laboured through. They sneaked in and went on and won the tournament, and then universally claimed as the best team, if not in world football, but certainly in European football. So it's nice to see English teams, albeit the only thing English about them is their name and their geography rather than their ownership, players and then managers. But notwithstanding it, they're still our clubs. So do I think an English team wins the Champions League this year? I'm not sure. I think this is as good a year for an English team to do it. And really and truly, with the power of teams in all of the competitions, we really should, without wanting to be English arrogant, we should be winning the Champions League, the Europa League and the Conference League.
Definitely. I mean, Danny, they're mob-handed at this stage in the last 16 stage. One of them should go on and win this.
Yeah, but knockout football, there's so many variables. I mean, when you're looking at elite footballers and teams, it's little moments that win and lose your matches. Like we saw Arsenal roll over Bayern not so long ago. But, you know, you could argue Bayern didn't have this. They didn't have to go in that game and get a result. It was a bit. They'd won so many games. So had Arsenal, to be fair. But Chelsea beat Barca, Liverpool roll over Madrid. But later in the tournament, that changes because the dynamic changes, the mentality changes of those elite clubs and elite players and ups their game. So then you see this kind of, you know, these little details will win semi-finals and quarterfinals. You know, when you play in those games, you realise it can be one little moment, even though you think the English team should win. There's no. You can't be that arrogant. Well, we can't be that arrogant to think we should just because we've got a strong league.
No, it's not a given. I mean, it's not a given. To lay out a claim that this is what is a reasonable opportunity for you to achieve shouldn't be conceived as English arrogance.
No.
But it's also the reasons why Newcastle are probably doing well in this tournament, because when it comes to cup competitions, albeit there's a league format in the Champions League, but it's a limited league format. So you know you've got to go into these games. Teams are going in there with a champions mentality, most of them, albeit 90% of them aren't actually champions, but they're highfalutin sides from their own countries, going in there with a front foot mentality a lot of the time. Anthony Gordon referred to it earlier on in the season when he was asked about why you're doing so well in Europe. He was talking about the opposition come to win, whereas in the Premier League, certain sides come in to make it difficult for you to play against. So that's the reasons perhaps why Newcastle have found some success in defending the much vaunted Carabao Cup that the whole nation celebrated last year. And also the Champions League.
I think the other thing, just quickly as well, is there's been the one thing I've noticed more so this season than any other is the physicality, fitness difference. The physicality of the Premier League teams has just gone up a notch. I mean, okay, we can argue they're not as talented as years gone by or whatever in terms of the depth of talent, but physicality. The way Chelsea went after Barca, the way Arsenal went after Munich, the way Liverpool rolled over Madrid. It's just too physical.
What about Bodo Glimt, Simon? You dismissed the quality of Bodo Glimt some weeks back.
I did.
I mean, they've fast become the story of the Champions League, haven't they?
They have.
Norwegian club doing brilliantly.
I wasn't alone in that observation about because it was in comparison with what Tottenham Hotspur fans were talking about how they'd won the Europa League, and I was saying, come on, get some context, because they were saying we ignored the league. You didn't focus on the fact that we won the Europa League and you didn't give us a due currency as a result of it, because we clearly did that. And I said, well, when you win a European competition by beating Bodo Glimt in a semi-final, it tells you some indication of what that competition is. Now, no disputing, Bodo Glimt have had great results this season. And people are suggesting to me that my observation was right and wrong in equal measure. At the time, Bodo Glimt weren't a great side. They've become a better side now in the last 3 or 4 months.
Oh, I see.
But I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to have little social media twerps point out to me every time Bodo Glimt win a game Are they any good now?
And twerps like us, we're pointing it out.
Absolutely.
Bodo Glimt absolutely flying. I mean, I'm going to put it out there. Maybe about 10:30 we might take some calls. Incidentally, does it go to show that teams not being able to compete due to financial mismatch is actually false? I mean, should the likes of the Old Firm take heed the next time they run that argument? And this time around, what do you think? Should the last 16 be the bare minimum for Premier League clubs in this competition? If you fancy it from 10:30 onwards, maybe 11:15, give us a call. 03717 223344. And in Malaga, everywhere I went, people were coming up to me. And I want to say how humbled I was. On the boat, the lovely Chelsea fan, gentleman that supported Chelsea all his life, gentleman sitting behind me on the flight last night, Chelsea fan. Everywhere I went, people were talking about the show.
Boat trip, Jim?
And I was thrilled by it. I'm so sorry, Danny.
Did you go on a shared boat trip rather than your own yacht that you normally go on?
He went on a bleeding pedalo is what he went on.
I went on a pedalo
boat.
Exactly. Simon, there was a boat down there, Dynasty. Have you seen it? Oh my God. I was thinking, that's where he's having lunch today. It was magnificent. WBO heavyweight champion Fabio Wardley's in the house and joins us next.
Adrian, good morning.
Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning, both of you. I've been listening to the show, terrific show this morning, and I don't know how I do it either, but come on, I'm nowhere near your level of mileage.
I'm not sure, mate. I'm not sure. I think it's a close run thing. Adrian, ask the question. Now, I mean, are Manchester United actually quite good?
They weren't particularly good last night, I've got to say. They weren't great to watch. I mean, it wasn't a brilliant game of football, let's face it. Everton were no better, so it wasn't great. But the one moment of magic, the one real bit of quality was the goal. The ball from Cunha is fantastic. The run from Sesko, sensational. Perfectly weighted pass from Mbeumo. And the first time finish was first class. So it was a brilliant goal. And just one brilliant moment, but that's all they needed. Sometimes when you're not playing well and you do that, it's fantastic, and they got the 3 points. For United, it was a bit of a throwback goal. I found. I said this last night on the show. This was United playing on the counter, winning on the counter, scoring on the counter, and this in certain times in Sir Alex Ferguson's reign, that's exactly what Manchester United did. So it was a throwback. Carrick understands the DNA, so there's a lot of positivity right now. Even if they don't quite get it right, Man United, they still managed to pull it out.
Good morning, everybody. Wednesday morning, February the 25th. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy. We are live on talkSPORT. We're going to get back to the Champions League, going to get back to matters football in time. But so much, as always, seems to be going on in the world of boxing. And we this show right in the thick of it. Many of you out in Spain over the weekend were telling me how much you love the boxing on the show. So this morning is no exception. And we have one of the major players in that sport joining us live. The 9th of May, Fabio Wardley defends his WBO World Heavyweight title against Daniel Dubois in Manchester. It'll be Fabio's first defence of his belt. Fabio Wardley unbeaten, 20 wins, 19 of those by KO, 1 draw. And the man himself joins us live in studio. Fabio, good morning.
Good morning. How are we all doing? Everyone all right?
Great, thank you. I love the way you've got this air of confidence. You've always had it, but you breeze into the studio. You're happy to see everyone. You're saying hi to everybody through the glass out there. You're loving life, right?
Yeah, of course. Always. Like this is finite, isn't it? Like a career, my boxing career, the attention and all of this stuff. This is finite. So look, enjoy it while I'm here. Like, big occasions, big moments, big fights, big events, and come on here and talk to you, lovely chaps.
So Daniel Dubois is next. 2 months out from it. Preparations, how are they going? Whenever we ask a fight, how are your preparations going? No one ever says, God, it's been a nightmare. I mean, I take it. You're flying through.
I've got this injury, my arm hurts, my back hurts. I haven't been sparring. Now, look, we're right at the beginning of things, early doors. We've still got a good few weeks to go in terms of training schedule and stuff. So we're just in the process of ramping up. So right now, everything's fine. Like, look, as an honest boxer will tell you, we never get through a camp unscathed. You never get through a camp perfect or whatever else. So look, the niggles, the pains, the aches or whatever, they'll come later down the line or whatever else. But right now, fresh as a daisy, ready to roll. I'm ready to get stuck in.
Are you disappointed it's not Usyk?
Yeah, of course.
Do you feel he ducked you?
I would say duck is a strong word because that has an implication that he's too scared to fight me, which I don't necessarily believe is the truth. I believe that he's at a stage of his career now where he has earned the right and built the right to kind of pick what he wants to do, pick his fights, be in plain money fights, the things that make the most monetary sense to him. And somehow him, his team, whichever else have decided that's not me. Look, I understand it. It doesn't mean I'm not disappointed. As evidenced by this fight and my previous and whichever else, I very much like to test myself against the best. So it's no sway to me at all. I want to get stuck in with him, but if not now, come through this. Look, I'll be on the phone to him again, trying to nudge him, his team, saying, look, I've got through that one. How about now? And if not, I'll get through the next person and I'll be on the phone to him again saying, look, how about now? So yeah, look, I'm forever going to be chasing him. It's just waiting for him to go, all right, come on then, let's have it out.
Does any part of you look at it from Usyk's point of view like, I feel a bit marginalised here, a bit diminished. I'm not being taken with the currency that I think I represent, because a lot of the time your backstory is constantly played out about what you did in the past and where you came from and how you should be handled in a certain way. And in every conversation, including ones I've had with you, I've picked the opposition. Not all the time, but most of the time I have.
You and everyone else.
Yeah, but you'll be delighted that I'm doing an alternate in this situation.
I don't know if I'm delighted.
No, you won't.
So what's news?
I know it is for him. But is there any part of you looks at Usyk going, well, pack it in you? You know, I am a world champion, legitimate world champion. You should be taking a fight against me. Or was it simply the fact that you and Daniel were in the same stable, it was an easy fight for Frank to make, that you take the opportunities in front of you rather than go, you know what, how about you pack it in? You should be fighting me.
Yeah, look, there's no point to sit and whinge and moan and cry and get on a grump about it and go, oh, well, you should be fighting me and kick up a stink and have a go at him and call him this, that and the other. Like, okay, look, he's a great fighter and that would be a great fight and something very much I would love to be a part of. But he's not the only great fighter out there. He's not the only great fight for me, a great fight for the British public to watch me be a part of, whichever else. There are other ones. So, yes, very much he's top of the tree. But there are other ones in terms of entertainment value, like this one, in terms of quality, good two young guys going at it, sticking it on the line that yourselves and the public and everyone else would be interested in watching. So look, if I can't have the best one, then I'm like always, I'm going to pick the next best option.
Fabio, what are you facing in Daniel Dubois?
A good overall boxer with very good base fundamentals. Like, again, the obvious things you can look at him: good jab, heavy puncher. Game, to be honest, gets stuck in, doesn't mind letting his hands go, isn't particularly shy in that instance. But there are also a number of flaws in there as well, which I'm paying attention to, which I very much think I can exploit as well. So, look, there's nothing to take away from him. He's earned himself a great spot in terms of being a world champion twice over and dealt with some of the best in the division as well and constantly tested himself as well. Something I'll give him credit for. He's been the likes of Hrgovic, Miller, AJ and things. So he's been with those guys. So he's not shy from a challenge himself either. So someone who's game in that sense.
Where's he most challenging? Are you worried about the early stages of it?
No, I think I'm not particularly worried about the early stages of it, because the early stages of the fight are a shootout for the pair of us. As much as I may or may not be worried about the early stages, he should be worried about the early stages for me, because I'm just as sharp, I'm just as quick, I'm just as powerful in them early stages as well, or as proven in other fights in the later rounds as well. So I'm not worried about either early, late, the middle of the fight, or whichever else. Like, I know he's dangerous throughout. He's strong, tough, can hit hard, but there's no particular singular stage I'm worried about.
Do you think, in your mind's eye, that you will have been in with anyone that hits as hard as he does? I mean, he's at one particular point, he was, denoted as Triple D because he's dynamite. He knocks people out. You've been in with various people that hit hard, but have you been in one that hits hard as Daniel Dubois? Because if you get hit by Daniel, it's not the same as getting hit by Justice Huni, is it?
No, not at all. Don't get me wrong. They're in different brackets entirely in terms of punch power. But for me personally anyways, the way I feel with Daniel, it isn't particularly sharp or unexpected. His shots are pretty loaded. You can almost see them coming, and that's not to take away from them at all, because if they hit you, they're going to hurt and you're going to feel them, but they're not clean, crisp. They don't come out of nowhere. They're not unexpected. You know what punch is coming, and if it lands, it's going to be heavy. But especially in boxing, it's not so much like chuck a bodybuilder in the ring. They're not going to hit. Like, just because they're big and strong, whichever else, they're not going to absolutely knock you out. With boxing especially, it's the punch you don't see, or the punch that's a bit unexpected. Out, yeah. And in that area, I think he's lacking slightly.
There's a lot we want to get into in the time we have with you, Fabi. Yeah, Fabi, we're being told we can do a few more minutes with you the other side of the break. Just as we get to the break, what we're going to see on May the 9th?
All out fireworks, all out action. And I think something I am actually very proud of to have built in terms of my name and reputation. And you see Fabio Wardley on a fight poster and you look at that and you think, that's a fight. Regardless of the opponent or whichever else, you go, I'm going to get value for money here. There's going to be a scrap. There's going to be a back and forth. He's going to get tagged. He's going to tag them and whichever else. And look, it may not be the most pretty punch perfect, but ultimately, this is prize fighting. It's an entertainment sport. It's here for the fans. And that is something, along with, don't get me wrong, milestones, record, the things I've achieved in my career, having the name Fabio Wardley attached with entertainment within the sport is something I'm hugely proud of. So, look, that brings in of itself. And then, look, you throw Daniel in the mix, like I say, big, strong, looks the part, game, ready to throw hands. There's only one outcome for that fight, really.
We're looking forward to it. You're building it up beautifully, Fabio. More from Fabio the other side of this 10:30 break. Remember, it's a fight. Fabio Wardley against Daniel Dubois, the 9th of May. You can watch it only on DAZN. And it's Fabio's first defence of his belt, the WBO World Heavyweight title holder himself. More from him after this.
recently. You may have seen it on social media. But I, like quite a few of you out there, actually woke up this morning to the sound of a big old baby crying.
It was very interesting. The likes of Goldstein and people on these channels, other channels, diving in, ridiculing, loving it when other people don't do well. That's too far.
No, that's not true.
It is true.
That's not true. I mean,
100%
that's not true. I'm not going to defend Andy Goldstein because it's not in my interest. Or I have any.
Andy, play this later.
But
if you want to be a good presenter and you want to go to the next level, don't take fun from other people losing their demise.
I'm not sure you need to lecture people about how they conduct themselves, Martin. But the fact is that you have no objectivity. So the reasons why you catch shrapnel is because you lack objectivity. If you are very subjective about situations, you become very defensive of it. No one's got any agenda against Arsenal. Nobody in this studio.
Well, that's where you're wrong. That's naive. Who's naive now? I was talking about somebody who works on this for this network, who for me takes fun.
So basically, your problem was with Andy Goldstein.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Well, anyway, your manager.
Right, I'll put my glasses on so I can read. Firstly, Keown, it's Mr. Goldstein to you, moaning. Martin Keown moaning like he's been bitten on the backside by Win the Dog. Let me just remind you, Martin Keown, Arsenal just beat the worst Spurs team ever, and you're screaming about it. A few days ago, you drew with bottom-place Wolves, and the so-called invincible Martin Keown, by the way, started just 3 games that season, 2 more than David Bentley, so calm down, starts crying like a tiny baby version of Kevin Keegan.
Eddie Howe has no doubt Newcastle can raise their game, whoever they get in the Champions League last 16.
We have to believe in ourselves, but I think we've seen the best of ourselves this year when we've gone into cup games and one-off games where we've been able to really rise to whatever challenge we've had in front of us.
See the Chelsea or Barcelona for Newcastle next. Tonight we've got Real Madrid versus Benfica live on talkSPORT. In the Championship, James Morrison's in interim charge of West Brom following Eric Ramsey's sacking. Swansea co-owner Snoop Dogg was very happy to see Liam Cullum's 95th minute equaliser on his first visit. But Preston boss Paul Heckingbottom hardly noticed the famous rapper.
No, I think just the smell of weed in the tunnel is the only thing that we realise something different.
Meanwhile, Hull City boss Sergei Yakirovich told us their stadium share with Rugby League's Hull KR is forcing him to change tactics.
It's impossible because between Chelsea and today they had 2 games, I think, 2 trainings.
Yakirovich told us it's difficult to control the ball at the MKM, but Hull are up to 4th with a 4-2 win over Derby. And Harry Redknapp's told us if Spurs don't get their act together, they'll be on for a famous season for all the wrong reasons.
Burnley are still having a go, but it's going to be tough for them. But, Wolves, unfortunately, they're gone, but that other spot is wide open. Certainly Tottenham, West Ham are very much involved.
For all the latest, head to talksport.com.
Boxing update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Sign up now at dazn.com/boxing.
And this is where you can get it. Don't forget, you can watch Fabio Wardley against Daniel Dubois in an all-British heavyweight encounter for the WBO title, May the 9th, live only on DAZN. Fabio in studio alongside Simon, myself, and Danny Murphy this Wednesday morning. I'm going to get on to the wider aspects of what's going on in the fight game in a second, Fabio. There have been criticisms of Daniel Dubois that he lacks a bit of heart. Is there anything in that? You're smiling.
Yeah. They have, and I don't know. It's always a hard one. I sometimes struggle to say you haven't got heart because don't get me wrong. You've
got to have heart to get in there.
That's my point. It takes a set to get in there in the first place, and then like he has done, lose to someone and then get back in there with them and throw yourself back at it. Yeah. So it's a bit of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because it takes some to get there, but then maybe in the moment, in the situation, it all gets on top of you a bit, and not to say you crumble or whatever else, but it all just, you feel the weight of it all, and it all just gets a bit too much, and the pressure and the lights and whatever else. So I can understand the the criticisms.
Yeah.
And again, I always find it difficult to say, oh no, he's got no heart, he hasn't got nothing.
But you think deeper in a fight, Fabio, you've got more than him.
Yeah, look, I think that much has been evidenced in fights, and in my fights and in his fights, and in comparable situations of when it's not going your way. How do you respond? What do you do? Do you shy away? Do you turn away? Do you quote unquote give up, however you want to say it? Or do you just knuckle down, head down, gum shield, get stuck in, all right, if this ain't going my way, I'm going to force it, I'm going to make a situation, I'm going to make something work. So yeah, I think in that aspect of attributes, I think I've got him down on that one.
Does it come into your thinking or Ben's thinking that there's an element, when I'm not so sure that it's as blunt as quit, but it's been allocated against Daniel. When you're thinking of fighting Daniel, do you think, well, if I drag him into deep water, if I drag him into the dark places where you have to go to win fights, that he doesn't have what I have? Is that part of the shtick that you have in your mindset when you're teeing up your thinking about Daniel Dubois?
Yeah, look, it's definitely a secondary thought of like, it's more of a reserve or a backup of like, right, if this isn't going particularly my way, or the fight's getting away from me a bit, or whichever way, all right, I can turn this on its head a bit, make it rough, make it ugly, make it gritty, and that probably could swing things more so in my favour. Don't get me wrong, there's never particularly plan A. I don't think it's a case, especially with Daniel, I don't think it's a case of dragging him into deep waters, because it could be, for me at least, with my perspective and how we've looked at it as a team, it could be as early as round 2-3. I think it's confidence in the situation. I think if you get on top of him early enough and get in his face early enough and make him feel like, hang on, this, whatever I'm doing here isn't working out for me, this isn't, it could very quickly snowball for him as quick as round 2, 3, 4. I don't have to get to 10, 12, 11.
Yeah. Tyson Fury said last week boxing had become boring without him. Had it?
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't at all. I think actually over the last year or so, we've had a bunch of fantastic events, fantastic fights. Some I've been fortunate to be a part of. I think, again, not to big myself up too much or toot my own horn, but I think in terms of entertainment value, that is very much something within boxing I'm doing my best to kind of fly the flag for, in terms of saying, let's make this entertaining. Let's make the good fights. Let's make the ones that people want to see. Like I'm saying, I want people to associate at least my name with Fabio Wardley's in a fight. Well, that's going to be a good fight. You know how he goes. He gets stuck into a fight. He makes it entertaining. He always picks a good opponent. It makes it worthwhile. I think from his side, when he's saying, "Oh yeah, boxing's got boring," it means turning up in a Batman suit, or all the theatrics of prancing around and doing this, that, or getting his dad to turn up and shout and rant and rave. And
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, the drama and the theatrics side of boxing is a part of it, but the core tune into a fight, is it entertaining, is it good? I think that bit has been great for the last
many people say that Moses Itoma is the future. Are you the present and the future of the heavyweight division?
Yeah, look, he's what, 20, 21? So look, I'm 31, so yeah, look, I haven't got as long in the game as him, so yeah, I'm definitely a few steps ahead of him in terms of age and in terms of where I am and things like that. And I think he is definitely primed and set to run the next kind of 10 years of boxing. But currently, at the moment, I am a world champion and I am at the top of the tree. So right now, it's me.
We're being advised you've got to go fairly quickly. Before you do, Fabio, Conor Benn surprised many, seemingly ditching Matchroom and Eddie Hearn to sign with Zuffa Boxing last week. How loyal are you to Queensberry?
I'm loyal to those that are loyal to me. It's something that I've had throughout my career, is that I'm very plain in the way I deal with not only Queensberry, but my management team or my coaches and things like that. Like a lot of my team and everything around me, we don't have paperwork to say, oh, you're owe XYZ or you do this or that. I'm an honest person. I'm an honest man. And look, you're owed this and I'll pay you this. And just because XYZ comes along and says, oh, we'll do all this for you, it's like, well, no, because I appreciate the work that XYZ has got me here to do. Or like the prime example is how I've got a dual coaching team between Robert Hodgins and Ben Davison. Now, very easily, I could have gone, thanks, Rob, to where you've got me to in this stage of my career. I think I'm past that now. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to Ben on my own. See you later. Where I didn't. I brought Rob with me because I believe that, look, if I can improve as a fighter, then as a coach, he can learn. As a Ben, we can work as a team as opposed to going, right, thanks, bin you off now. I've moved on to the next level. I'm leaving you behind. I'm moving on. So me at my core, that's not how I would operate. That's not how I do things. I've got a great relationship with Queensby, Frank, George Warren, them boys. We get on really well. So yeah, look, there's it'd be a hard chance that Zuffa come in and go, oh yeah, here's a bunch of cash for you and try and sort me out, because I trust in people more than I trust in money.
Fabio, brilliant. Great to speak to you.
Always.
No doubt we'll be speaking to you again before the big night on May the 9th. Fabio Wardley live in studio with us this morning ahead of Wardley Dubois. It's an all-British heavyweight encounter for the WBO title, May the 9th, live only on DAZN. Stay with us.
What if they finish 20 points behind second?
Oh, well, then that's different. But
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you know they've had an unbelievable run if they finish third and they lose the last 4 games.
That's what I mean. All of a sudden, Villa could fall off a cliff. Chelsea could. Liverpool could. Honestly, no, look, if you don't like the answer, don't ask the question. I think that conversation needs to be a place because depends who comes available, right? Depends who comes available in that. We don't know what might happen. I'm just saying.
Let's go to Bob. He's a Man United fan. Bob.
All right, Bob.
All right, boys.
All right,
I normally come on here bashing United, and this is music to talkSPORT's ears.
What do you mean?
Right. Sesko, what a player. No one's talking about this. He's Ruud van Nistelrooy in the making. And I tell you what's going to happen. You know, like when Ronaldo come back to United and Cavani give the number 7 shirt back over, well, Mason Mount is going to hand-deliver that number 7 to Sesko. Now, I find it insulting that before I come on, there was a presenter saying a £200 million goal. If Manchester City scored a goal or Arsenal, money wouldn't be mentioned, so that's an insult.
No, I don't think it is. No. I think it's no. I think it's a good point worth making because all 3 of those players were signed in the summer and they've all underperformed really. But that pass from Cunha into Mbeumo and into Sesko, that was a brilliantly executed and taken goal. I don't know where you're getting all touchy.
I don't know. Mbeumo's played great all season. Yeah. Sesko had a bit of a slow start, right? And now I'm seeing what can be made. The one-on-one with the goalkeeper, Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Wow, what a reaction to our time there with Fabio Wardley, who's been in studio, been and gone. Fabio defends his WBO World Heavyweight title against Daniel Dubois in Manchester, May the 9th. Daniel Dubois will be in studio alongside his trainer, Don Charles, with Simon and myself tomorrow. Danny alongside Simon at the moment. I mean, how impressive is Fabio?
Oh, he's remarkably impressive. He's erudite, he's articulate, he's assured, he's confident, he's likeable. He delivers inside the ring. And we've got to celebrate these guys. We had Josh Kelly on the show yesterday, who's won a world title at super welterweight. These are real champions. And Fabio's gone a different route from, obviously, white-collar boxing. Every single fight, Fabio's pretty much been turned up, except the Justice Hooney fight, as being the underdog. And his backstory, people will say that he didn't really win the world title because it wasn't for the world title against Joseph Parker. He's a bona fide world champion. And look at the way he conducts himself. You know, there's a star there. It's going to be a hell of a fight.
He's
hell of a fight.
He's not just warm and charismatic. He's calm.
Yeah, assured.
And every time I was watching him and you guys were asking him questions, he doesn't rush in with his answers. He's very thoughtful with them and very honest. He feels like what he says he means.
Yeah.
And there's no fear in him. He doesn't speak with any fear of what it might, who it might offend, or.
But he selects his words very carefully as well. He doesn't put himself in a way of allowing himself to be hoisted into a space he doesn't want to be. Yeah. He lets other people say it for him. You know, he teeters upon the side of whether Daniel Dubois has quite the gumption to go up to toe-to-toe, but he doesn't say it.
Yeah.
So he's very elegant in the way he does it. Very, 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 very talented. Very capable.
Well, the man in the other corner is Daniel Dubois, and in his corner is Don Charles. The two of them, as I say, will be in studio with Simon and myself tomorrow morning. Back in the world of football, big night in Europe again, and of course it's getting down to the serious business now, the business end of the Champions League, the Europa League, the Europa Conference League. And 1 week on from his post-match victim blaming of Vinicius Jr., might we have heard from Jose Mourinho by now? Well, we all know what happened. This time last week, we were reacting to a Champions League night overshadowed by an alleged racist incident towards Vinicius Jr. of Real Madrid from Benfica's Gianluca Prestiani. UEFA handed Prestiani a provisional one-match suspension, meaning he doesn't feature in the game tonight in Madrid. Remember, 1-up Real Madrid from the first leg. UEFA imposed the ban on a provisional basis, pending the result of a full investigation by an ethics and disciplinary inspector. Prestiani has denied racially abusing Vinicius Jr. All came to a head last week, of course, in Lisbon. Since then, nothing from Mourinho, but plenty elsewhere, including Bayern Munich's Vincent Kompany. Have a listen.
So after the game, you have the leader of an organization, Jose Mourinho, who uses basically, who attacks the character of Vinicius Jr. by bringing in the type of celebration to discredit what Vinicius is doing in this moment. And for me, in terms of leadership, it's a huge mistake. And it's something that we should not accept. So I'm very clear on that. On top of it, he mentions the name of Eusebio. To say that Benfica cannot be racist because the best player in the history of Benfica is Eusebio. You know what black players had to go through in the 1960s? Was he there to travel with Eusebio every away game? When he went to every place in Europe? Probably at the time, because my dad is a black person from the 1960s also who made his way. Probably at the time, the only option they had is to be quiet and to say nothing and to be above it and to be 10 times better, to get a little bit of credit and people say, actually, he's good. That's Eusebio's life.
Well, since that night, Mourinho has gone quiet, but post-match, he was anything but. And when it came to victim blaming, this is the kind of talk that Mourinho indulged in. There is something wrong because it happens in every stadium. A stadium where Vinicius plays, something happens. Always. He says, it was an amazing goal, Vinicius' winner. But unfortunately, he wasn't just happy to score that astonishing goal. When you score a goal like that, you celebrate in a respectful way. I told Vinicius, when you score a goal like that, you just celebrate, you walk back. When he was arguing about racism, I told him the biggest person in the history of this club, Eusebio, was black. This club, the last thing that it is racist. Simon, at the time, Danny, at the time, we were thinking, Mourinho, ooh, where's he going with this? Where's he going with this? Now, he's banned for tonight, so he can't indulge in any pre-match interview duties. And he's gone quiet since then. It's probably a good thing.
Well, he deserves all the criticism he's getting because some of his statements after were stupid. I mean, all about him, really. And not very bright for a man who is supposedly intelligent. I thought it was nonsensical, some of what he said. And if you speak out quickly and stupidly, then you're going to get criticism from every which way. So in a way, I think it's good that he's going to be quiet tonight.
Should we have heard from him in this last week, though, Simon? Not just before this game.
Unless he's changed his view, then we don't need to hear from him. He's conflating two different perspectives, and it allows people to interpret it as victim blaming, and legitimately so to some extent. We don't know contextually, and neither does Vincent Kompany, with due respect, what was said by Vinicius Jr. to Jose Mourinho to prompt Jose Mourinho to go off on this little diatribe about Eusebio and the club not being racist.
Well, if you watch the footage, there was nothing. He went to him. Mourinho went to him.
Well, I don't know what was said, but whether he went to him or Vinicius Jr. went to him is irrelevant. What was said between the two guys invoked a reaction. Now, I'm not in any part of this conversation excusing Mourinho for very clumsy and ill-thought-through observations and conflating one argument with another. By conflating his celebration to the fact he was racially abused is a fool's errand, or allegedly racially abused, right? But for us to be sat on the outside saying, well, hang on a second, let's observe on what Mourinho said, under the mantra of victim blaming and under the mantra of excusing what may have happened. If Mourinho had an allegation put to him by Vinicius Jr., this stinking club is racist top to bottom, it's not unreasonable for him to push back and say, hang on a second, it's not racist, and to cite some example to support his argument. Now, none of us are contextually aware of that conversation.
Well, you say that, but would you not think Mourinho would mention that? He said he's accusing my club of being racist.
Well, he hasn't said anything, so I don't know, and neither do you. I'm not excusing Mourinho. I'm trying to provide just a tad of context, because we're all weighing in on Mourinho on the fact that prima facie, it looks like an absurd set of circumstances to even opine on. If he was wise enough, even if it was self-preservation for himself, he should have kept out of it, because there was nothing to be added in this conversation besides, if this player was racially abused by my player, it's appalling. That's all he needed to have said and moved on. To get into the other side of the conversation, it either says that Mourinho is obsessed with having his say and isn't aware of the room that he's in, or, alternatively, there was something said to him by Vinicius Jr. that elicited the response, which in of itself was still a stupid response. Because it doesn't matter if Eusebio was a black player in Portugal and was championed or vilified. Yeah. It doesn't matter that the past. It matters what happens to Vinicius Jr. in that moment.
But if you take away that bit about what he said there and just focus on the fact he's saying that all the stadiums he goes to, he has problems and all that. Well, even that in itself, the celebration was fine. The best players in the world provoke the biggest reactions when they travel, when they play, and when they score goals. And Ronaldo always did. All those players, the top players do. You know, it was just.
And he may say that about other players. He may say a situation that manifests itself for other players.
But it's the pot calling the kettle black.
Well, of course it is. But that's a staggering lack of self-awareness. That's a different dynamic.
No, Mourinho got it so wrong here, Simon, didn't he?
Oh, I don't think he got it right.
He got it. Yeah, but he got it so wrong, and he should be out to rectify the situation now, having got it so wrong. And he knows he did, because on domestic duty at the weekend, he was asked about the situation after Benfica played. He said, "I don't want to comment." And then a press officer jumped in to say, it's now a UEFA matter. He doesn't want to comment.
Just out of curiosity, and I don't disagree with what you just said. If Mourinho comes out and says, I've got it wrong, just out of curiosity, what does that achieve? Because there'll be a group of people saying that he's been pressurised into doing that. There will be very few people that will give him plaudits. Not that he's entitled to any for the acknowledgement of his mistake. So what would be the purpose of Mourinho saying that he got it wrong?
Reflection is important. And I think something like, looking back on it, I regret my choice of words at the time.
But he can have that conversation too.
No, that was it.
I tell you what he could do. He could have that conversation with Vinicius Jr., couldn't he?
Yeah.
And apologise in private to Vinicius Jr. But what we're doing is we're wanting to judge him through the prism of our world, right? And if he doesn't feel like being judged by us, that's his business. But if there'd be more genuity and more integrity in Mourinho having a conversation with Vinicius Jr. saying, I got it wrong. And he may well have done. None of us are privy to that.
So you could say at the moment Mourinho is acting somewhat coward-like, because he's ducking his nut. He's keeping a low profile.
But the alternative point of view is, right, and again, I'm playing devil's advocate for the purpose of conversation. Mourinho might not think he's wrong. So if he doesn't think he's wrong, and we all think he's wrong, and Mourinho being the character that he is, really only cares what Mourinho. He's going to stand on his own words. And we might not like it, and we might think it's awful, and Vincent Kompany might want to opine on what he thinks of it. But if Mourinho thinks he's right, the rest of the world can go to hell in a handcart as far as he's concerned. So he's not going to come out and turn around and say what we think we want him to say for the benefit of who, because the real beneficiary and the real victim of any abuse and any sort of consolation in terms of apologies should be Vinicius Junior.
Which is fine if that's how he feels, but then we have a right as well to criticise him for not doing so.
But we don't have the right to demand him to do it.
No, I agree.
No, we certainly have the right to ask him.
Well, and he has
certainly have the right to ask
the
him.
way we're characterising it is that he's being silent because he has nothing to say, I suspect. And then we're characterising it, and I'm playing devil's advocate, as it's cowardice. I don't think it's cowardice at all. Cowardice might be apologising like a lot of people do when they don't think they're wrong because it gets them out of hot water. If he thinks he's right, it's not cowardice to stay where he is. The cowardly perspective is, self-preservation, I've done a rick here, I better apologise, like so many people do in society.
But are we in this studio agreed that post-match, on the night in Lisbon, what he said was wrong?
In the context of trying to suggest...
what he said was wrong.
Well, I'll answer the question.
Wrong for me.
Context of trying to suggest that there's any validation behind the reasons why Vinicius Junior gets any kind of abuse, of course he's wrong. And he's even more wrong because he's the biggest hypocrite because he does
over the weekend there, after Benfica played, and I'm not out to hammer Mourinho in this, but over the weekend, might it not have been a better way to handle it by him saying, do you know, in midweek there, I do regret post-match.
The only thing with that, Jim...
On reflection, I don't think I got it right in the heat of the moment.
The only thing with that, and you touched on it, Simon, but whatever he says is going to be more headlines and more about him and the topics. So
leave it alone.
Maybe leaving it alone is the most respectful thing to do to Vinny Jr. But yes, if it was me, I'd have said something.
So never refer to it again.
I would I'm not saying I would do that. I think you're right. There's a point to be said where he should have, or he could have, not should have, but could have come out and said something to diffuse all of it and make him look a little bit
Or you could
better.
clarify.
But he's not that guy, Jim.
He's not that guy. Or you could clarify and say, let me give you some context as to the reasons why I might have said this, so that other people that are getting up on their high horse actually know the exchange between us. And he could have done that. But Mourinho is Mourinho. And I don't think it should be celebrated or condoned. But us sitting here saying it's cowardice on his part or whatever, I think that's flawed. I think he's ill-advised not to have the wherewithal to turn around and say, that ain't right what I said there. Irrespective of whether I think Vinicius Junior over-celebrated, which, by the way, he didn't. Right? He shouldn't have put that into a conversation where he's alleging racial abuse, and it's quite a serious matter.
Yeah.
So it's a fool. He's a fool.
We shouldn't really expect him to say anything, should we? On reflection, because he never said anything about Anthony Taylor's family trying to get out after that European final. When there was a pylon from the Roma fans at the airport.
We
he never said, sorry, if I had anything to do with that,
but some people
am sorry.
Some people get
on
so famous, so wealthy, that they live in this world where they're so special they can do what they want to say.
But he won't think he did have that. When you and I have disagreed about this and got into heated exchanges, he will turn around
he should be called out for it.
Maybe. He will turn around and say, I had a man-to-man heated exchange with someone in the car park, you lot filmed it and then amplified it. So don't tell me that's my fault.
Yeah.
I'm a man. I'm allowed to have an exchange of views with somebody. You filmed it and put it on the news networks, and it caused mayhem.
But he
it would be filmed. Hold on,
and it would be put in the network.
You're right, but he could have said, "Of course, I regret him having to go through that with his family. I never wanted that.
Of course, you should have done that.
I never wanted that interview to be aired.
And like Vinicius, Simon, a quiet word in private, as you suggested there. Why didn't he have a quiet word with Taylor that night? Before they all left the stadium.
Well, maybe he thought it was quiet. Got filmed by someone over the way.
He thought it was quiet, did he?
Maybe.
When all the teams are coming out and all the
well, it's irrelevant, isn't it? Because what we're agreeing on is afterwards he could have said what happened next was...
Anyway, so far, nothing from him really on it. I don't want to comment. He might, maybe, in sometime in the future. As for the game itself, 1-0, Real Madrid, finally balanced, and it's live on talkSPORT. It's 11 o'clock.
And that's when you can find a way to make decisions, because ultimately you're seeing the best version of Michael Carrick, you're seeing the best version of Man United against what you've seen before. And the previous caller was right. It makes other people look poor.
But what you do have with Michael Carrick is you have a frame of reference, don't you, Liam, who's just phoned us? And the frame of reference is the fact that, hey, he's doing very well at the moment, coming into a difficult situation. He has managed a club in Middlesbrough in the league before, but also he knows what it's like to play in Manchester United's greatest teams. He's been part of that. He knows what it's like to win the Champions League wearing that red shirt, to walk down that tunnel and onto that pitch. He understands that weight of expectation that comes with being the Manchester United boss, Liam.
Hi, yes, it does. Great show as always. Simon, I think you're amazing.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you.
Like I say, Michael Carrick should be judged on results, and so far he's got five wins out of 6. Hopefully that continues this season. If that continues, I think he should get like a year's contract just to see how he does for a full season with Champions League football. Then obviously, hopefully we can build on that. Like the previous caller said, we don't want to jump into any rash decisions, making knee-jerk signings, this, that and the other, like we've done previous. So it would be good to see how he does for a full season rather than just maybe 3 seasons.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan van range. Scoring a winning hat-trick of performance, payload and price. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines at 11:01, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. How far can Newcastle go in the Champions League? talkSPORT's Danny Murphy says in knockout football, you never know.
It's a difficult place to go, Newcastle. And when they've got everybody fit and everybody at it, they can mix their game up. They're physical. Their away form worries me a little bit. I mean, against the better teams.
Danny reckons Eddie Howe would rather face Chelsea than Barcelona. The draw's on Friday. Meanwhile, our European football expert Kev Hatchard says this year's surprise Norwegian package, Birder Glimt, are ones to avoid.
People are now looking at them, a team that was in the second tier a few years ago, a team that had never won the league before 2020, and they're saying we would not want to go anywhere near them. So that is phenomenal. And they're not even playing league football at the moment.
Tonight, Real Madrid versus Benfica is live on talkSPORT. In the Championship, Preston boss Paul Heckingbottom told us the only difference Snoop Dogg made at Swansea was the smell of weed in the tunnel. Lee Trundle was there.
I think that's the smell of a last-minute equaliser, that I think. That's what that'll be. And then my other thing was, how does he know what it smells like in the first place?
The former Swansea forward says the fans loved co-owner Snoop Dogg's visit. The 1-1 draw with Preston was a sellout. Gianni Infantino says he has total confidence in Mexico's ability to safely stage World Cup matches. That's after a drug cartel unleashed a campaign of violence in response to the killing of one of its leaders. The driver of the car involved in the fatal crash that Anthony Joshua walked away from will be back in court in Nigeria in March. Adeni Mobolaji Kayode has been charged with causing death by dangerous driving and driving without a licence. And Six Nations rugby, Wales flanker Tane Plumtree has been ruled out of their last 2 games against Ireland and Italy.
talkSPORT News.
There have been 100,000 more fly tipping incidents in the last year, and Aston Martin's cutting up to 600 jobs. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Today it's raining tyres in our centres, including top-notch brands like Pirelli. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
Across Scotland and Northern Ireland, cloudy with spells of rain. That rain's moving into Western England and Wales this afternoon. Elsewhere, very mild with spells of sunshine.
Morning, everybody. 4 minutes past 11 o'clock this Wednesday morning. We're almost out of February the 25th. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy, and we are live on talkSPORT. We're also live on your TV, Samsung, Apple TV, Google TV, even Prime Video. Wherever you want to watch a show, you can watch us live every morning between 10 and 1, broadcasting from the 17th floor of the news building here at London Bridge. A lot to get through. I came back from Spain last night looking at social media. Martin O'Neill reportedly not happy at Celtic. Was he going to be on his way out of the football club? Well, no chance of that, as far as I gather. Martin is hanging on in there in his second interim spell in charge. They're in Germany against Stuttgart tonight. Of course, Europa League playoffs, second leg. Not great. 4-1 down from the first leg.
Back-to-back defeats for Martin.
Back-to-back defeats for Martin, yes. He ain't walking. Martin's going to be hanging out.
To be fair to Martin, he wouldn't be in this predicament if they hadn't got rid of him the first time to bring in the other fella. He would have... They'd be in a much healthier position, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you bet Martin is hanging on in, and he'll be there, of course, when Celtic cross the city on Sunday to take on Rangers in what is a crucial game. They're all crucial, the Old Firm, but this one is particularly so. We had Fabio Wardley in studio with us moments ago. Daniel Dubois, his opponent on May the 9th, will be joining us tomorrow in studio alongside his trainer, Don Charles. For the moment, I want to stick with boxing because, Simon, it's reported Frank Warren of Queensberry is engaged in a legal battle with the companies Sella and TKO, headed up by Turki Al Sheikh and Dana White. They are fronting Zuffa Boxing. What's all this about? Mr. Warren's company, Queensberry, is claiming that Sella and TKO breached contracts they'd signed with them and went behind his back to form a venture, Zuffa, that aims to dominate boxing. The Telegraph understands this morning that Queensberry will seek up to $1 billion compensation for income the company claims it would have made had the contracts been honoured. Frank suing Turki and Al Sheikh and Dana White. Turki Al Sheikh and Dana White. It seems it's all getting a bit nasty, isn't it? And those who were once friends are very much no longer friends.
Well, I mean, they fling writs around like confetti in this space at times, don't they? But I mean, it's kind of in this territory of where I suggested it might be at some point, which is that the Saudis will have their own lifespan, their own attitude towards the boxing industry, and eventually not have the necessity to deal with the Eddie Hearns and Frank Warrens of the world if their ultimate aim is to conquer demand and diminish the sport that they're in by being the sole force in it. Now, Frank Lever has a contract with them. First of all, he was the person that opened the door. Let's not forget that prior to this relationship that's now in the world of boxing in terms of the Saudis being so influential, in 2023, Frank was the gatekeeper, was the intellectual capital behind delivering the outcome of Tyson Fury fighting, I think, Francis Ngannou. And everything spiraled off that. And all of a sudden, everybody was feeding off the Saudi teat, weren't they? In came Eddie Hearn, in came everybody else, and everybody was in this gravy train of opportunity. And it was always in my mindset. And I said it to Eddie, didn't I, that you will become marginalised at some point if you're not careful. Glorified agents is what I think I use the terminology. So off goes Dana White and Turki Al Sheikh and take one of their marquee fighters, Conor Benn, in terms of profile right now. And here we are now seeing an issue between Queensberry and the potential relationship they believe they were having with Sella about their future. Now, it'd be interesting to see how the contract plays out and how much of a case they have. First, you have to prove damages, and clearly they'll be able to suggest that if there's income being generated and they're not part of it, and there's a contract that's binding, they'll be able to give some indication of what that is about. $1 billion headline, I assume they're suing in American courts. $1 billion headline is always the case that gets put forward for cases. You know, Trump's going to be suing the BBC for $10 billion. There's always a billion sign in front of it. It'll be fascinating to see how it shakes out. I mean, I've heard that there is a little bit of an issue between the two parties for some time. I didn't realise it was solely about the fact that they've been excluded from a venture, and that they've been excluded from that venture for some time. I mean, this proposition didn't just arrive yesterday. Zuffa Boxing has been incorporated and in action for about 6 months, hasn't it?
Does this have a knock-on side to the capability of putting the best together all the time, like we were a year? Like we've started seeing the best fights more quickly done without the fuss.
Well,
getting put together. Is
well,
that gonna...
well, you're not. You know, they're not involved necessarily so much in Dubois versus Wardley, are they? And so the fights are getting made. I mean, obviously, what the emollient was Saudi money, and that has pared back a little bit. The Saudis have looked at it and gone, okay, we've been paying a lot of money. We're not going to continue paying it. They've raised the bar, created the outcomes that they wanted, and now start paring it back in again.
Yeah. I mean, the arrival of Zuffa Boxing has changed the landscape, Simon, and they are supremely confident that Zuffa Boxing. Well, I mean, according to Turkey Al Sheikh, Zuffa quotes will crush everything in the sport.
Yeah, but that's his song.
And introduce a single championship to replace the current 4 governing bodies. What is it that's miffed Warren?
Well, if he's got a contract to have been an integral part of that promotional opportunity and that construct, and he's now been rode out of it, and there's an agreement in place, and that agreement is in perpetuity and binding and clear and concise, and isn't dictated by certain terminologies and conditionality that gets them out from underneath it, then Frank has every right to turn around and say, pack it in, you lot. We had an agreement, and ultimately I helped you to get to a position that you're in. And of course, they all lined their pockets. They didn't do it out of charity. They all sat in a room and all got paid very well for it. Yeah. But Frank Warren was the intellectual capital, not Eddie Hearn, not anybody else. Frank Warren was the intellectual capital behind the Saudis arriving at the table, having a good look around, was very facilitatory. The events that were put on in London that drew criticism from me about Saudi national anthems being paid were all facilitated and orchestrated by Frank Warren's intellectual capital, bringing Daniel Dubois against Anthony Joshua and all that we saw. And now what has happened is the Saudis, with respect to them, have done what I imagined they would do, which is, thank you very much, no longer required.
Yeah.
It would seem crazy that Frank would get engaged in a legal battle with such powerful, wealthy people if he didn't think
he's right.
He's got a watertight...
Well, yes and no. It depends how far he's... It's one thing having a headline. It's another thing serving papers and then ultimately taking it to the position where you're going up against power. And because in a court case, more often than not, it's the person with the most money in the room that wins. But Frank's not a slob. He's got a few quid. He can match them pound for pound to some extent going into the situation.
Yeah, but he's not... Yeah, of course he's not. But I mean, you're effectively suing Saudi Arabia here.
Sure.
Good luck.
And when they got dragged through the court systems in America, and they got that the chairman of Newcastle that turned around and said that actually the PIF fund was nothing to do with the government or the state of Saudi Arabia, and then was dragged into the American court system, was told exactly the polar opposite and made accountable for that. They are accountable. They're not beyond the law. This is not their country. They're in America. They're being dragged through a court system. They'll have the best lawyers. If Frank's got a very good case, he'll have lawyers that'll be chomping at the bit to take it on some sort of conditional arrangement because they'll be getting paid out of it. So if they've got a good case and it's absolutely unequivocal that the documentation matches up with the expectation, he'll have lawyers crawling all over it on CFAs going, we'll take that on a conditional funding arrangement, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we'll take our back end when we get the money out of the Saudis. But the interesting landscape is, are Zuffa going to do... What are they going to do? Every fighter wants to fight for the WBC, WBA and IBF belts. They don't want to fight for a Zuffa belt.
At the moment.
Let's see how it goes. And by the way, there's a lot of stuff going on. Do you think Dana White's has had a good time recently? He's been sued up the yin-yang from UFC fighters wanting compensation for the construct of the deals he's done in the past.
Yeah.
The fighters aren't going to do that. And what they're doing is the polar opposite of what UFC has done. They've taken Conor Ben, given him $15 million, whereas the UFC fighters got a fraction of the purses.
Sure. But it's changing daily, though, Simon, isn't it?
It's evolving.
Opetaia wants to fight for a Zuffa belt. Conor Ben
who's he
will
going to
ultimately fight a Zuffa belt.
I mean, the fascinating thing will be is how this cross-pollinates. Because how are you going to get Zuffa, if you want people to have meaningful fights, the best fighters have got to fight one another. So how are you going to get Zuffa fighters? I mean, the contradiction in terms is beyond it. I mean, Conor Ben wanted to fight for the WBC belt. That was the main thing he wanted to fight for. Now he's fighting for Zuffa. I thought the only intention that Zuffa had was to fight in their space.
Which
one is it?
It's just money, isn't it?
But it's money.
Money will end up putting the best fighters together because fighters will leave where they're at.
That's where well, look at what Zuffa are doing. He signed a $500 million 5-year deal with Paramount Plus to show its fights.
And what do you think?
They're in with Netflix.
Of course they are.
Thanks for everything you've done.
And so,
bye.
And so DAZN are no slobs either. And they're in with DAZN. Don't forget they're shareholder in DAZN. So there are other platforms that are around. Yes, it's an interesting landscape. But they found themselves unable, with due respect, without making this anything about the Saudis, but ostensibly they're in the middle of this, and it's their intellectual capital that's driving Dana, and he's the front man for this.
Yeah.
They couldn't buy golf, could they?
No.
And they can't buy football. So whilst there's less structure in this space, there is still some structure and there is still some value in the legacies. And they're trying to use the Ring magazine and the Ring title as their anchor tenants for being a viable proposition. Yeah, but the fighters still want WBC.
They've been a serious tilt at it.
And the money side of things...
I was sitting in Riyadh watching Usyk Fury.
I hear you.
Who would have thought that 5 years ago?
And the money side of things is being pared back. They're not wanting to pay what the market dictates anymore in terms of the market forces have come to play. The fighters are now getting to realise that actually there isn't as much money on the table. The Saudis want their pound of flesh.
But the status quo are worried. Are they not? The status quo.
No, this is not being...
Look at what White was saying about Hearn.
No.
Now Frank is doing what he's doing.
If I've got a contract with XYZ person and they take all my intellectual capital and then they renege on their contract, I couldn't care less who they are. They're going to get sued. And so it's not about whether they're worried or not. It's about whether he's right or not. If Frank Warren has got a contract with Sella, and it's clear and definable that ultimately there's obligations upon Sella, then you don't get to sail off in the sunset and do what you're doing. And if they haven't, then Frank's going to have an expensive lesson. But he's not a fool.
It appears, though,
not a fool.
No. It appears there's concern, though, about what might be on the horizon. Opetaia, sure.
That's not concern.
Has gone. Conor Benn, gone. Is there not a concern that Fury, Usyk are going to be fighting under Zuffa?
Well, listen, the reality of it is that there's always a challenge, and there's always a new fox in the hen house. And if this particular fox has got huge amounts of money, then it's a challenge to be mindful of. They're not mindful of it in a fear factor point of view. He has a contract. He's not suing him because he's bricking himself of what the Saudis are going to do, because he's lined his pockets quite nicely out of them. And Frank can sail off into the sunset and having to do another thing again.
Yeah.
Right? And George, as a CEO and a leading influential thinking behind Queensberry, is as smart as paint. So let's have it right. But if you've got a contract with somebody and they think they can do as they want, he's absolutely right to have a go back.
But do you think it gets to the High Court?
Nah.
I think what you were saying, Jim, isn't it? Is not every boxer's like Fabio, when he's talking about his loyalty.
No, they're money motivated, and so they should be, as are the promoters.
I'm with you. I think the majority of them, if it's there, they'll go.
Wait and see. Wait and see. I mean, the previous model of how Dana has run UFC has been quite prejudicial to the fighters.
Yeah.
And the boxing is going to have to involve a sea change in mentality from the Dana Whites of the world in terms of how they pay the proportional representation. Because UFC was built to such a scale on the margins, give or take, that 90% went to the UFC and 10% went to the fighters.
Yeah, but I thought you said Dana's a frontman for this, so it's not his money, is it?
But he's the intellectual capital behind some of the thinking, and it'd be interesting to see. And it'd be interesting to see if that model does get replicated. If it doesn't, then it becomes a challenge. But by the same token, you're then confronting yourself with: does the WBC have no value? Like the PGA's pushback against Liv, they will find a way to not be existentially damaged by other people's agendas.
Doesn't get to the High Court.
I don't think so, no.
It probably sorts itself out before. How does it end?
They play nicely with one another.
Yeah.
And Queensberry fighters appear in various spaces that support various things, and it all comes back to what it was before.
Yeah. Okay, or Zuffa does what it wants.
Or Zuffa gets sued.
Be interesting, won't it? Never mind what's going on in the boxing ring. What's going on in the High Court? It's 11:15.
Greg, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Morning, gentlemen. How are you?
We're very well, Greg. Thanks for taking the time to call us. You think Martin's comments are made with some justification, I'm hearing, yes?
Listen, you have to accept people for what they are. So, while you can either have the in-depth, actual professional football analysis from people that have been there, done it, won things and things like that, or you can have the clowny side of it. You can have the Andy Goldstein, who is 60 years old, dyes his beard, dyes his hair.
That's just good.
And the Gabby Bungalow side of it. And the Jamie O'Hara side of it. It's all about what you enjoy, what you want to listen to. If you want to listen to professional insight, winning mentality talk from Ray Parlour, Martin Keown, people like that,
just Arsenal players. Just Arsenal players.
I'm going to have to say, Greg, is it just the Arsenal players? Is it just the Arsenal players that seem to be talking about a bit of sense in that?
I'm trying to think of any sort of ones that have won things.
You want a bit of drama and talking points, look no further than the Championship. From the Foxes to the Baggies, is it looking like we're going to see a big casualty heading to League One? Yes, it does. Leicester took a point at promotion chasing Middlesbrough, 1-1. They've now drawn both matches under their new man, Gary Rowett. Well done to you, Gary. They remain 22nd, 1 point adrift of safety behind West Brom. Last night, West Brom sacked their head coach, Eric Ramsey, after just 44 days in the role. I want to get Danny's take on Leicester and West Brom in a second, but Ramsey went shortly after speaking post-match.
The question around my job and the future is it's not one that I can ever answer, will ever attempt to answer. I can only do what I can do over the course of a day and put my head on the pillow at night feeling like I've turned over every stone, I've pushed the staff to do so, I've set the team up to be competitive, given the team a framework to win the game. And I'm not saying that I'm blameless, I'm not saying that every button that I've pushed has been the correct one, every setup that we've rolled out over the course of my time here has been perfect, far from it. But I can only feel that I have controlled what I can control, and I think today was an obvious showing of that, I suppose.
He had a hell of a time there, Danny. He failed to win any of his 9 games in charge of the club. Previous experience in the MLS. What are we learning here? From Bob Bradley to Wilfred Nancy to Eric Ramsey. When will British clubs learn that the MLS is no recipe for success?
Pretty soon, by the sounds of it. I think the picture's getting pretty clear. I mean, all those different people you mentioned, the individual clubs and different circumstances. But when I watched 2 of West Brom's games under him, and they wanted to try and play, and the Championship's relentless. I had a brief experience in there, and it is relentless physically. Yeah. And you've got to play percentages sometimes, be pragmatic, be able to vary your game. You can't be an idealist, And if you lose a few as well, the lads' confidence is already down, but they start doubting you and questioning you, especially because of where you've come from. Because some of the lads with the egos we have, you'll feel like you know more. Why are we playing this way? We're losing games. It just starts. And they've just got worse and worse, and the fans turned. And as soon as the fans turn, very rarely do you get that back.
Yeah.
And they're in a dogfight now.
I mean, they were 18s when he inherited them, to be fair to him.
Yeah, so they were in trouble. That's fair.
They were in trouble.
But you expect some sort of they've got enough quality in that squad to be in a better position than they are. The Leicester situation's a bit different. Obviously, they're down there because they've had the points deduction, and you could argue their squad's better. You could also argue that, well, not argue factually, Leicester if they got relegated to League One would be a much bigger story. I mean, it wasn't so long ago to winning the Premier League and the FA Cup. But I think they've been really proactive in bringing Gary Rowett in. I like him. We spoke about that, I think, last week, and 2 good results they've had. I mean, they'll be disappointed at the weekend because they were winning till injury time, I think it was.
Yeah.
So I'd say West Brom look more in trouble than Leicester at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, they are 2 big clubs, Simon. I heard you say during the break, and I don't want to drop you in it, but I'm going to. The Midlands, who cares? But
did you?
Did I hear that?
No, he said something else.
The bottom line is, though, Simon, the ownership here have screwed up, haven't they? At West Brom, that is a fact.
Well, yeah.
To try and turn it round, they failed dismally. It's like Wilfred Nancy at Celtic.
Well, they've appointed people that haven't done the jobs that they anticipated. So you have to say that is a failure on a part of the appointment criteria, because Ryan Mason didn't set the world on fire, did he?
No.
He put them in the cart first.
Yeah.
And then they recruited a manager to get them out of the cart, and he stuffed them firmly further at the back of it.
I mean, they're looking for their 4th coach in 14 months. What are they doing?
Well, I mean, look, you've
got to get it right sometime.
Yeah, they've got 2 wrong this season, so that obviously means that they've fired one guy that obviously didn't do very well last season, so it's exacerbated by having 2 in a very short space of time, which gives you the statistic that you like, which is 4 in the last 13 months. But the fact is that Ryan Mason was the fruit of the poison tree was Ryan Mason, because this guy wouldn't be here, and West Brom wouldn't be in the position that they're in if Ryan Mason was capable of running the team, and clearly he wasn't. Now, the flawed thinking about you bring these guys in from the American from the MLS. First of all, I don't think they're good enough. Right, because the experiences in football at that level aren't good enough. But notwithstanding, you don't give them much of a chance. You bring them in, you stick them in teams that are struggling. So when Bob Bradley was brought into Swansea, they were struggling. When Jesse Marshall was brought into Leeds, they were struggling. When you put this guy into West Bromwich Albion, they're struggling.
Yeah.
So you don't give them any chance to stretch their legs. And of course, there was a situation at Rangers with Wilfred Nancy where Rangers were struggling in comparative terms. Celtic was struggling in comparative terms, albeit the fact that Martin O'Neill had steadied the ship. The actual club in of itself was in disarray with owners and shareholders falling out with fans and the style of play not being where it wanted to be and the team getting booted out of the Champions League thanks to Brendan Rodgers' contribution. So with all that in mind, it's not a perfect landscape for American coaches to come in, or coaches from the MLS, and be given a fair airing. Because some people would say that Jesse Marsch, as part of the RB model, did okay until he arrived in the Premier League, which is unforgiving at the bottom end of the table and unforgiving in terms of picking up the mess that Bielsa had left behind.
To be fair, he did keep him up when he got there.
He kept him up, yeah. He did keep him up. So, West Brom have never been as well run as when Jeremy Peace ran them. I mean, obviously, I feel a bit sorry for Jeremy Peace because he's got his wife on that god-awful show, The Housewives of London, so he's occupied himself with that.
Is that something you've been watching?
I watched it the other day. It's a horror. Can you imagine?
I know, I'm amazed.
Oh, it's so little on TV.
I mean, you'd be watching Love Island.
Yeah,
why were you watching that?
Because I was flicking through channels and there was nothing else to watch.
All right.
And I could have watched some reruns of us on YouTube, but I'm well familiar with myself. So I was watching that. But my point is that Jeremy Peace ran it well. And West Brom, over ownership since then, have never been the same football club.
Yeah. Elsewhere in the Championship, you got to love this. I mean, Danny, from Wrexham to Swansea, Wales, it's become a hotbed for A-list boardrooms. I mean, Swansea produced a record crowd last night, and a mate of mine, John Williams, got in touch with me last night to say, have you seen the scenes? I mean, the scenes were brilliant. As Snoop Dogg did a little circuit of the stadium before the game, Swansea fans adopted a pre-match towel twirl, an idea popularised in the hip-hop scene of Pittsburgh in the 1970s. Right. But it wasn't bad. Snoop didn't get, do you call him Mr. Dogg or do you call him Snoop?
Snoop.
He didn't get the win that he wanted. 1-1. The final score. Apparently, Snoop or Mr. Dogg missed the equaliser, which happened right at the death. He'd already left in his people carrier, and he missed the Swansea goal.
He's off to Deliveroo.
He's off to Deliveroo. But I mean, fan bloody tastic, isn't it? Great.
I don't mind.
Great for the club.
Yeah, exactly. Put it in perspective,
isn't it? Would you?
It's creating an atmosphere. Yeah, awareness, but also an atmosphere around the club that improves everything. There's to have that. Did you say it was a record crowd?
Swansea
in the Championship. Yeah,
for them. Yeah,
a record crowd. Oh, in the Championship.
Okay,
fine.
Yeah.
Right,
a record crowd. Yeah, in the.
And that's all good because it gives them financial help.
Yeah.
An awareness to the club, as Simon said, a similar thing to Wrexham. I don't know what his role is, to be honest, or what he's doing.
Did you not miss a trick at Palace? Well, Snoop was. You could have get him.
The only person that wanted to buy any shares off me was Colonel Gaddafi's son. I'm not sure that would have gone down too well.
Not today, it wouldn't.
Not today, no. But this American investment. He is a passive investor in a football club. He's got Luka Modric alongside him, isn't he? You've got the Americans buying into English football clubs. They see a commercial opportunity. So whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, I think. If you want to light upon you, open a fridge door. But if you think Snoop Dogg is going to be a value to you, then fantastic. I didn't like his music anyway. It's Just Eat, isn't it? It's not Deliveroo, isn't it?
Yeah,
is it? Yeah. Oh well,
yeah,
glad
you're
we got
right.
that right.
Just Eat, yeah.
You're busy watching London Housewives. but well done, old Snoop. I mean, great stuff. You never know. You might have missed a trick there, Simon, because this celebrity investment, minority stakeholders. Well, they're not minority in the case of Wrexham. But there is not. And look at, if you're watching on YouTube live, watch Snoop. There he is doing the circuit of the stadium before the Swansea game last night. These fans are loving it.
I know. They need to get out more, don't they?
Oh, come on! It's good fun.
You missed a trick there, Simon, at Palace.
I wonder why he's got shades on.
Yes, absolutely, it's important. Because the world's turned. Football is a far more investable product now.
Yeah,
it's far more global than it was 10, 12, 13 years ago. So yeah, the opportunities for people to take these guys in and look at the Wrexham story. That's the poster boy for American investment in and outside of the Premier League.
Yeah,
because they can see it. They can see a valuation of 300 or 400 million being achieved. And you've got Apollo Sports Management buying into them. They can see they can get grants from the Welsh community for 18 million to buy stadiums. And I don't care who contradicts this on social media because it's true.
Yeah, well done. If you had your chance again, what top celeb would you bring in? Now, give this a bit of thought. Nobody from London Housewives, but who might, and don't be inappropriate now because I know you're tempted to be.
Somebody from OnlyFans.
Someone from OnlyFans. There you go. All right.
What's that?
Danny.
He knows.
He knows.
Always remember where you were when Danny Murphy was pretending not to know what we meant by that. OnlyFans. What does that mean? 11:30. We're live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes.
boxing greats Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr. have agreed a professional rematch in September, 11 years after a fight that came 5 years too late. Does Floyd's unbeaten record and the professional status of the bout add any intrigue to this at all?
No. Not really. I don't think so. I mean, Manny Pacquiao's had a fight recently, hasn't he, against Mario Barris, who's just lost his title to Ryan Garcia, deservedly so. And that was a draw in which most people saw Pacquiao at the end of his career, saw what was left of him, and were not too happy that he came back again. Floyd Mayweather has had a variety of different bouts. I mean, I hear that he's going to fight Mike Tyson. I don't understand what that thinking is. Or an exhibition. We've seen him fight and hold up Conor McGregor in an exhibition fight. It's Netflix building entertainment models around sport. Sport is entertainment. It crosses over. Netflix have got a proven model of success that ultimately they invest some money into these sort of things, whether it's Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson or Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. They'll look at their lifetime value of their average subscriber, not every subscriber, but their average subscriber, and then they multiply it by the amount of subscribers they think they're going to get as new ones, and they make a commercial decision.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because everything that they've done so far is massive. And this obviously will be a talking point. I mean, Anthony Joshua's knockout victory over Jake Paul in December wasn't something that the boxing fraternity wanted, but it appears to be that they understand what people want, what the rest of the community wants.
Eddie Howe has no doubt Newcastle can raise their game, whoever they get in the Champions League last 16.
We have to believe in ourselves, but I think we've seen the best of ourselves this year when we've gone into cup games and one-off games where we've been able to really rise to whatever challenge we've had in front of us.
See the Chelsea or Barcelona for Newcastle next. Tonight we've got Real Madrid versus Benfica live on talkSPORT. In the Championship, James Morrison's in interim charge of West Brom following Eric Ramsey's sacking. Swansea co-owner Snoop Dogg was very happy to see Liam Cullum's 95th minute equaliser on his first visit. But Preston boss Paul Heckingbottom hardly noticed the famous rapper.
No, I think just the smell of weed in the tunnel is the only thing that we realise something different.
Meanwhile, Hull City boss Sergei Yakirovich told us their stadium share with Rugby League's Hull KR is forcing him to change tactics.
It's impossible because between Chelsea and today they had 2 games, I think, 2 trainings.
Yakirovich told us it's difficult to control the ball at the MKM, but Hull are up to 4th with a 4-2 win over Derby. And Harry Redknapp's told us if Spurs don't get their act together, they'll be on for a famous season for all the wrong reasons.
Burnley are still having a go, but it's going to be tough for them. But, Wolves, unfortunately, they're gone, but that other spot is wide open. Certainly Tottenham, West Ham are very much involved.
For all the latest, head to talksport.com.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. We're ready for the action. Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+. GambleAware.org.
And we're joined by Sean Martin from BetMGM. We're going to look at some of the top sporting events and the odds round and about them. Sean, good morning to you, mate. We're going to talk about the Champions League football from last night and look ahead to tonight. But no doubt you'll be buoyed up, excuse the pun, by the news that Martin has got no intention of leaving Celtic anytime soon, in spite of some of the stories that were circulating on social media last night.
Yeah, I don't know if I truly really believe that. I don't think he would come back in at that stage of the season, being asked to come back and save the season and then be off again, if you know what I mean. But yeah, we did drop points at the weekend. again, as you know. Yeah, we'll come to that.
We'll come to that. What about the Champions League last night?
Yeah, morning, guys, by the way. I really didn't say morning there. Newcastle
Morning,
and Atletico gave us almost throwback aggregate scores, didn't they? 9-3 and 7-4, respectively. But it was all about Bodo Glimt, really, in the end, wasn't it? I tipped them up to get something at home last week, but Matt Gibson, to his credit, came on yesterday and said that even money to go through last night was worth a look. It was around 10-1 or so for them to beat Inter in Milan last night. Unreal stuff, really. Obviously, not the first big underdog result that they've had, given they beat Man City and Atletico this term, and I've seen them give Celtic a bit of a lesson a few seasons ago as well, by the way. But this one, beating last season's finalists home and away, definitely the crowning glory. And they could actually play City again in the next round, I believe, which is one to look out for. So, in terms of tonight's final four playoff ties, Dortmund and Galatasaray take first leg leads away to Atalanta and Juventus, respectively, while PSG and Real Madrid protect 1-goal leads at home to Monaco and Benfica. All four home teams are favourites for tonight's game, so that's Atalanta, Juventus, PSG and Real Madrid. That's a 5-1 fourfold. But we were looking actually at goals more than results tonight, guys. Both teams to score in all four ties, given the respective situations. Seems quite decent value at 24-5, so just under the 5-1 mark, Jim.
Okie dokie. Let's talk about the Championship last night as well, because we were talking about earlier, brutal as it is, West Brom sacking their man in charge, and of course Leicester down there in the grubber and fighting for their lives.
Yeah, so Middlesbrough dropped points again as well. Pretty poor end to February for them. That's 3 without a win now after doing so well to get themselves into position. Hull and Ipswich both get back to winning ways, but probably worth keeping an eye on Southampton as well. They're up to 7th now and still over even money at 5-4 to make the playoffs. Tonight's fixtures, Millwall marginal favourites at home to Birmingham, who are one of the division's form horses as well, you'd have to say. A couple of other games, but in particular, Sheffield United at home to Coventry. They're 27-20 to win the game. Coventry 7-4. Obviously, Coventry top of the pile and out to kind of consolidate that lead. But a Sheffield United win probably takes them also right into the mix for the playoffs with what would be 12 games left. Chris Wilder, he lost 3 of his first 4 home games after coming back. Since then, he's lost 1 of 10, I believe it is. It feels just like every season in the Championship, guys. A team leaves it late and charges into the playoffs. I mentioned Southampton, I mentioned Birmingham, I mentioned Sheffield United, but there are 4 or 5 others there or thereabouts. I mean, if you had to pick one team hovering outside at the moment to slide into 6th, lads, who are you backing?
Who'd you back? Sean mentioned Sheffield United. I mean, Simon, we've spoken about Chris Wilder, the impact he's made by going back there, wanting a third spell there. And it's quite incredible. If they beat Coventry tonight, they are looking at the playoffs if they can keep this momentum going. 6 points outside at the moment if they win.
Yeah, it goes all the way down, doesn't it? It goes all the way down to, the argument could be waged all the way down to Sheffield United. I always felt that Chris Wilder going back into Sheffield will galvanise them and they would get towards the playoffs. So I'm surprised it's not manifested itself quite as I thought it would do, but clearly there's been a sea change from the results that were gotten at the beginning of the season. I mean, if you look at the top 6 and you look at Birmingham potentially knocking on the door of it.
I think Birmingham.
There's some big clubs there. And this Wrexham march on through as I said, despite my original scepticism about Wrexham, they are now a club that's massively well funded, not by the movie stars, but by a new ownership group that's part of the Reconstruct, and they have a huge opportunity because they're commercial revenue. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if they got promoted.
That'd be incredible.
But there's a whole. I mean, this has always been the Championship. 72, 73 points gets you into, or 71 as it was when I had Palace, got you into 6th spot, and Bob's your uncle. You were in amongst the lottery then.
You had a late surge with Palace, didn't you?
Well, we were 3rd from bottom in the league.
Yeah.
When I employed Ian Dowie, and then we finished 6th and got promoted that season.
So he saved you.
Well, saved us. Maybe saved us from ourselves. Yes.
Okay, and Danny, Millwall hovering around it, but they play Birmingham tonight down the road from here at the Den. Birmingham will bring plenty for that. Look out, London Bridge area, but it could get lively if Millwall keep the charge going.
Well, they do remarkably well because they're punching above their weight, aren't they, really, in terms of the finances and their budget compared to some of the clubs around them. Alex Neil, I think it is in charge there, isn't it?
Done very well.
Fellow Scottish.
And they win tonight, and the results go their way, they can go third. I always remember Birmingham playing Millwall in the 2001 playoff semi-final.
Yeah.
When Bruce had left me, gone to Birmingham, and Millwall was owned by Theo Paphitis, and I was going to support Millwall in the playoffs. We'd fallen away after being top of the league, and I remember the scenes at that stadium in terms of horses being set on fire, and I don't suppose we'll see any of that outside the stadium, but the atmosphere, because Birmingham scored a goal in the very last minute. I think it was Stern John, a goal in the very last minute to knock Millwall out after Millwall draw 0-0 at St Andrews, gone to Millwall at the playoff semi-final and got beat 1-0 in the last minute. So I don't suppose 24 years later that would be particularly part of it.
It's a nice trip down memory lane, wasn't it?
It was lovely.
It was.
This is the kind of thing that football throws up, though. Wouldn't it be funny, Sean, if Millwall go up and West Ham come down? The two of them sort of see each other in the past. Anyway, well, let's not dwell on that. Fabio Wardley, Daniel Dubois. What are you thinking?
Yeah, speaking about boxing, I tuned in earlier to hear the segment with Fabio. It comes across so well.
Yeah,
I think I just find it fascinating. Really, not here to promote it or anything. The contrast in storylines, the parallel careers today. Dubois, elite amateur, won ABAs, would have been an Olympian but chose to go pro. Wardley, as mentioned, every time he is mentioned, worked in recruitment, took up boxing late, white collar events, no kind of licensed or official amateur pedigree, that kind of thing. Yet both made their pro debuts on the same night. I don't know if you realise that, and even that was a contrast. I had a wee look at it earlier. 8th of April 2017, Dubois, the undercard of Liam Williams, Liam Smith, WBO title bout in Manchester. Wardley, by contrast, down at York Hall on a Commonwealth title undercard. 9 years later, both in Manchester, and it's Wardley out of the two of them that's the world champion with the belt. And I get what was mentioned earlier on with you guys about the wider appeal of the kind of A-side and all that, but the story's there. And as Fabio mentioned, they both love knocking folk out, both got a 95% KO rate, 40 stoppages between them, so it's odds on at 7-20 not to go the distance as a result of that. In terms of who is more likely to knock who out, the market has it 7-5 Wardley and 31-20 Dubois, so marginally favours Wardley there. And in terms of simply to win the fight, similar story, both actually odds on at the moment. Wardley 22-25 and Dubois 19-20. I was going to say where's the belt go, Simon, but did I hear you right earlier that you're backing Wardley on this occasion? Did you say that to him earlier?
But the momentum is with Fabio. He's the winning fighter. You take people based upon their most recent performances. Fabio stops Joseph Parker, and Daniel Dubois gets stopped by Alexander Usyk. I realize Usyk is an elite fighter. But yes, I'm going with Fabio Wardley, much to his eternal disappointment.
And I look forward to you telling Daniel that tomorrow when he's in the studio with us. But it's very even, isn't it, Sean? That is for sure. I don't think it's going to change going into it.
No, but there's also, I mean, this is just from a boxing fan's point of view, curious how Dubois is going to come into it, having first left Don Charles and then gone back to Don Charles, which I'm sure you will speak to him about tomorrow.
Yep, we will do. Sean, thank you very much indeed. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus, gambleaware.org.
Last time out, Josh, in the Masters, you struggled against the boy wonder. Is he so much better than anyone would ever believe, Luke Littler?
Yeah, there has been a couple of times I've let him off. We've played, but listen, you have to learn from their mistakes. And they got away, get the game against me at the Masters, which was my own fault. It just wasn't. I don't think I prepped myself right. So, but we all learn from mistakes and we move on. But At the minute, he is the best player in the world for a reason, 2-time world champion.
What the difference is? What's he doing differently than you? I mean, because it seems like a simple thing to throw the things and hit the numbers. Is it consistency? How good is he?
I just think he's a control freak. he's like a robot, just can do it better than anybody else at the minute.
And how happy are you that obviously every time anybody speaks to you about stuff, they bring him up? I apologise. I'm just gonna.
No, it doesn't bother me
okay.
because listen, he's made our sport the way it is today. A lot of young kids playing it now. It obviously prize money now goes up. Darts is probably one of the most watched sports in the world right now. So for him, what he's done is absolutely fantastic, and we have to tip our hat off to him.
Is it a bit annoying that he's, you're 24, right? You should be, you're like, this is up and coming. 24 is young, and yet he's 19. You're like, hang on a second, mate. Like, wind it in for a few years. Let me be up and coming before you're the best player in the world.
Yeah.
I think everybody else thinks that. Just let him go away for a while and let someone else win a tournament.
Why didn't he just play out? Why don't you be out playing out with your friends, playing hide and seek? You're too young to be. You don't know if you're old enough to go in the pub, is he?
We're heading towards 12 noon this Wednesday lunchtime. Wednesday being Wednesday, Danny is with Simon and myself. Italian football, what is going on with it? Tonight, the Italian game faces the prospect of no Italian clubs in the last 16 of the Champions League, and that will be a first since 1988. Since the reintroduction of the last 16 knockout round in 2003-04, there's always been at least one Italian representative. But here's the thing. Maybe not this time. Juventus trail Galatasaray 5-2 heading into the return meeting in Turin. Atalanta 2-0 down on aggregate to Borussia Dortmund. And last night, we saw Inter Milan go at the hands of Bodo Glimt. The much-mentioned Bodo Glimt. And Italy face a World Cup playoff in March to reach this summer's tournament in the US. They haven't been in a final since 2014. Italian football expert Daniele Fisichella, what is going on with Italian football, Daniele?
Hi, good morning, Jim. Well, it seems like Groundhog Day because last season 3 Italian teams fell at the playoff stage of the Champions League. And since the new Champions League has been introduced, yes, this has been almost a limit that Italian teams have not been able to pass. Look, I think it's very difficult to judge the state of Italian football by single games and by single teams. And we know that the crisis has been coming. I mean, the stats you read are extremely telling. I think overall, this season in particular, and if we look at Inter, for example, that already being knocked out, they simply underestimated the opposition. In the days before the first leg at the Arctic Circle against Bodo Glimt, all the talk was about the plastic pitch. Yes, of course, is a factor. All the talk was about the sub-zero temperatures. Yes, for sure. But very few people focus on the fact that Bodo Glimt actually are a very good side, and they demonstrated in both phases when they have to attack and also like last night when they have to defend with 10 men behind the ball. Inter made too many changes in the first leg, too much turnovers, probably focuses on the league. And last night they lacked that urgency and that precision that last season they were able to show against Bayern Munich and against Barcelona. So the question is, where is that team that managed to score late against Munich and Barcelona has gone? They simply weren't there last night.
Yeah, I mean, last season Serie A champions Napoli didn't even get through to the knockout stages, Daniele, as you'll know. So they seem to slip up in the big one. Not the others, I'll grant you. Atalanta won the Europa League in 2024. Roma won the Conference League in 2021. But when it comes to the Champions League, forget Italy.
Well, hold on. No. Daniele, I mean, Inter have been in the final for the last 2 years.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, that you could probably point at years of Champions Leagues in recent years where all the English teams didn't do particularly well. So the question is more, is it just a one-off and a bit of bad luck this season, or is it on the demise, the league, the quality, all those things? Do you think it's going to carry on this way?
I think is in decline, and we have to forget about Italian football the way we knew it in the 90s. Absolutely. But the decline has started since the mid-2000s. And this goes hand in hand with the economical constraints, with the rise of the Premier League, but also with the inability of the majority of the Italian clubs to reinvent themselves and find a different way to compete in this new market. Italian clubs are cash strapped. They cannot attract the best players in the planet, let alone the ones that perhaps are past their best. And I give you a simple example. Last week, when Galatasaray were already winning against Juventus, they brought on Leroy Sané, who's got 400 games for Bayern Munich and Man City together, and Mauro Icardi, who has scored over 100 goals in Serie A. Juventus brought in Gatti, Openda, and had to play with Weston McKennie as false nine. With no disrespect, there is no comparison. Therefore, Italian clubs who are so keen on getting results quickly, because of course they need to stay competitive, I think they lost the focus, and they've not been able perhaps to give opportunities to younger players that probably could have taken them with both hands. But in general, I think the pace of Serie A, the rhythm at what Serie A games are played, with some exceptions, it's slower compared to the rest of the leagues in Europe, the top leagues. And of course, when it comes to even the Italian champions, Napoli, not being able to score against Frankfurt in the league phase of the Champions League, being held to a draw by Copenhagen, I think it goes to show that other nations that maybe we consider lesser nations few years ago have caught up with us, tactically for sure, but also physically, as Bodo Glimt demonstrated last night too.
Briefly, Daniele, do you think Italy, I mean, you'll be hoping they do, will they get to the World Cup finals in the US? You've got a playoff against Northern Ireland, and then a potential final against Wales or Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Italy has demonstrated that when they got the backs against the wall, when it's desperate, they can do it. And that's been the history of Italy national football team for a long, long time. However, there is a lack of belief, and there is also a clear lack of quality in the team. Now, the two games on paper are winnable for Italy, but so we said about other games in recent years. Of course, they have to qualify, because otherwise it will be almost catastrophic. I read a stat last week. Since 2006, the Italian national football team has won a World Cup game as many times as the cricket national football team. Only once. So, I mean, we are not a cricket nation by any stretch of imagination.
Oh, Daniele, thank you very much indeed. Daniele Fisichella with us this lunchtime. The Italians, do you think they'll get there? They've got Northern Ireland, then a potential playoff final against the Welsh or Bosnia.
I do, actually.
Yeah,
so do I.
I do.
They didn't get to 2018 or 2020.
Their actual qualifying campaign, was pretty good. They had a huge number of points and won a lot of games. Quite unlucky not to go through with the number of points they got. So
yeah,
I know it's still failure in effect, but they weren't losing and drawing many games. It's just the ones they should have won, they didn't. But they're in all right nick.
Yeah, Danny, I want to cram this in before we get to 12 noon, because it stuck out for me. This John Terry has admitted that he was, quotes, left frustrated after not being asked to assist the Chelsea interim boss Callum McFarlane during Callum's brief spell post Enzo Maresca's departure. We now know that Maresca's gone, of course, and Liam Senior is in there. John Terry, somewhat miffed that he wasn't involved when Callum came in on an interim basis. He was saying this on the Golf Life YouTube channel.
Not annoyed, probably more frustrated, because I was certainly part of that 21s group that went over. So even if I didn't take the team choose, obviously Callum took the team, done really well, got a result out of the game. Yeah. It's like I feel like I should have been part of that. Now listen, people have got to make decisions. I love it when people make decisions and they go yes or no. And clearly, ownership or whoever made those decisions, the sporting directors have gone no, not to include me for whatever reason why, I don't know. But that's why I probably don't get the Chelsea bit if I don't go and do the other bit. But I'm certainly not looking.
So John's saying there he felt that maybe he could and should have been involved there. He's a legend of the club, of course he is, but does that legendary status necessarily entitle you to a position like that, even though it's a brief one?
No, of course not. To be fair to him there, I think he's just speaking openly and honestly about his frustration. I mean, we don't know the reasons why. I don't know how big his role is or what he'd been doing to make himself think and feel that he should be. But I don't see a big deal with what he said. He's just sharing his frustration. I don't think it's too sinister. Somebody's just making a decision. Maybe too many cooks. I don't know how many of those members of staff were taken across for that one game. Yeah, maybe he's been a bit sensitive.
Yeah, it does strike me as odd. I know you're a fan of John's, Sam, but it does strike me as odd that if Chelsea had the opportunity to have him on board in some capacity, they wouldn't have done it.
I can't speak to the reasons why. I mean, I saw John the other day. Unfortunately, got bashed up by him in a paddle tennis court, so it doesn't make me speak very fondly of him now. But
he beat you.
He did.
Oh, good.
Yes. I'm sure you're pleased with that.
Yeah.
Better to participate than sort of throw
Carry
brickbats from the sidelines. Yes.
Crack on.
I don't know, John. I mean, John's got an interesting one. He's talked about being a football manager, never really put himself in a position to be one. And I'm not entirely sure what his relationship. I mean, he's been a major supporter of Chelsea. When he did the upfront interview with me 2 years ago, he was talking about the Chelsea methodologies, the fact that we're building a side. So he's been a major advocate of what they've done. He's been very much involved in making sure that mentoring a lot of the young players and being involved in the coaching side of things. But I think it's kind of a moot point. It was a one-game deal, big deal.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I'm surprised he's not back in some capacity, though, Danny.
I'm surprised he's never taken the plunge or let's rephrase that, been given the opportunity he desires. Maybe he's turned some down. I don't know, because I think he'd be a brilliant man. I mean, he's been an amazing leader as a player. So many things I've heard good about the way he led that team through those years.
His time at Villa under Dean Smith.
He did.
Well.
So he's done a few years coaching and on the staff at clubs. So I'm sure he's ready. But has he had the opportunity? I don't know.
Okay, plenty to get into in the final hour today as we approach 12 noon this Wednesday lunchtime.
Let's go to Matt. He's a Spurs fan. All right, Matt?
Right, matey boy.
All right, mate. Yeah. Fair enough.
Got to swallow it today, matey. It's one of them,
I know. Well, we've had to swallow it for a while now, haven't we? But at the end of the day, none of these players are sort of like, they say football's war without the bullets, and you wouldn't want any of them in the trenches, and none of them are stepping up.
No.
I mean, the only way I reckon you could get them to flipping actually pay attention would be hit them in the wallet. I mean, Van der Ven, I'd fine him 2 weeks' wages for the way he acted on that pitch. I'd probably fine the whole team a week's wages for the way they played, apart from maybe Morani. I mean, Vicario wasn't the worst player on the pitch. Normally, he's a nightmare. He makes Bobby Mims look like Pat Jennings. Do you know what I mean? It's like...
I was disappointed in Van der Ven. I don't look... Obviously, I've seen the videos and the context can maybe get taken out. I don't really know the exact moment in the game what he was asking him, but Igor Tudor was obviously asking him to step up, and Van der Ven just kind of dismissed him, which didn't look great, I'll be honest. But
yeah, but he did the same. He did the same thing to Frank, didn't he? Thomas Frank. He was like dismissing Thomas Frank.
The thing is, Van der Ven is too good for this team. Like, there's no getting away from it. He's way too good to be playing at this level of football.
But you need him.
We need him. That's the problem. Like, we need him right now. Like, I get it. I get it, Van der Ven. Like, you're playing in a team that you don't deserve to be in. Like, he's way better than this. But right now, he has to swallow it. He has to swallow it, and he has to be a leader, and he has to deal with it. Like, all of them have to. And this is the problem. There's some good players in this team, but they don't want to swallow the fact that they're in the fight that they're in, and they think they're too good for it.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Commercial vehicles that go the distance for your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
We do headlines at 2 minutes past 12. I'm Nick Ellaby. Good afternoon. With Eddie Howe saying Newcastle can beat any Champions League side on their day, will one of the 6 remaining Premier League teams win it this year?
I'm not sure. I think this is as good a year for an English team to do it, and really and truly, with the power of teams in all of the competitions, we really should, without wanting to be English arrogant, we should be winning the Champions League, the Europa League and the Conference League.
Simon Jordan says PSG and Barcelona are still the elite sides to beat, though. In the Championship, Swansea legend Lee Trundle's thanked co-owner Snoop Dogg for making Tuesday night a sellout.
A brilliant occasion, and for the fans as well. It was great for the fans to see it, and he got involved with everyone. He walked around the pitch, he was high-fiving everyone, taking photos with the fans, so everyone really enjoyed themselves.
Preston boss Paul Heckingbottom says he smelt weed in the Swansea tunnel before their 1-1 draw. Now, with Spurs at risk of being a Championship side next season, Alan Brazil says the board haven't had talks with Mauricio Pochettino yet.
I've not even spoken to him.
You'd have thought Poch were an automatic one after the World Cup.
Correct. No, not even spoken to him. So I don't know what they're doing, and I don't think they know what they're doing.
Now, the Lionesses will play Ukraine in a World Cup qualifier at Hill Dickinson in June, becoming the first England team to play at Everton's new stadium. And Fabio Wardley's told White and Jordan he's disappointed not to be fighting Alexander Usyk.
I would say duck is a strong word, because that has an implication that he's too scared to fight me, which I don't necessarily believe is the truth. I believe that he's at a stage of his career now where he has earned the right and built the right to kind of pick what he wants to do.
Wardley fights Daniel Dubois live on talkSPORT in May.
talkSPORT News.
The House of Commons Speaker confirms he did pass reports to Peter Mandelson to police that he could be a flight risk, and Aston Martin is cutting up to 600 jobs. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit, your go-to destination for quality tyres from great brands like Continental. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
Rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland, moving into parts of Western England and Wales this afternoon. Elsewhere, very mild with spells of sunshine.
Good afternoon, everybody. 4 minutes past 12 noon this Wednesday lunchtime. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy. We are live in talkSPORT. So many Swansea fans getting in touch with the show today. Off the back, albeit of a draw last night against Preston, but Snoop Dogg pitching up, and the atmosphere that generated apparently was something to behold. There's John. What a crowd, what an atmosphere, what a night we had. The club's moving in the right direction with our owners Tom Gorange and Vitor Matos. Hopefully Snoop will be back in Swansea soon. He's made a big impression, has Snoop Dogg. We look forward to seeing him in Swansea or these shores anytime soon again. and we shall see what the reaction is then. But certainly he got them going last night. Plenty for us to look at in this final hour today. And remember, on the boxing front, Fabio Wardley. So many of you got in touch off the back of us chatting with Fabio ahead of his May encounter with Daniel Dubois. Fabio in studio earlier on this morning. Daniel Dubois in studio tomorrow with his trainer Don Charles. So we're going to hear from his side of things. Do you think we'll see anything, Simon, like the Daniel Dubois we saw when he demolished AJ at Wembley?
Do I think he'll do that to
Fabio? Is he capable of still doing that?
Yes, of course he is. But
has he still got it in him?
Yeah, of course he has.
Yeah,
of course he has. I mean, and it'd be interesting to hear what Don Charles has said on Talk Boxing, because he said that Fabio Wardley, before we went back, was easy work for Daniel Dubois. No doubt we'll play that to Don tomorrow. But no, this is a difficult fight, but I don't think he walks through Fabio Wardley the way he walked through Anthony Joshua.
Yeah. Danny, when in your time as a top player, and you were indeed one, how did you deal with stick from the crowd? And I mean insulting stick from the crowd, close to you, verbal insults, etc.
Pretty well, I think. Yeah, I wore off a Dogg's back a little bit. Did
they ever bring family into it?
Occasionally. Yeah, occasionally. But it was par for the course, really. I mean, you got the bit of that on the pitch as well. It wasn't anything like you get today, because obviously the online abuse or the online criticism or assessment of everything you do and say and your partners and your family and whatever is enhanced by social media. So that makes it worse, I'm sure, for some of the boys. But when you're on the pitch and when you're playing, you're kind of so focused. That stuff, occasionally it can anger you, but generally motivates you. To shut them up or do better. It wasn't ever I never once felt like I or anyone I played with was feeling or looking like a victim when it was happening. And it was never that bad that you felt, wow, this is too much.
Is this bad? Is this worth highlighting? We're going to highlight it anyway, whether it's worth it or not. And I wonder how the individual who's at the heart of it will actually feel. An incident during the North London derby. The image from it has gone viral. If you're watching live on YouTube at the moment, and there he is. See the fella behind Declan Rice, who's about to take a throw in, I think.
Yeah.
And he's holding a phone, and he's attempting to mock Declan by holding on his phone a photograph on his phone of Declan's wife. Declan was about to take a corner. It's not the first time that Declan's had to endure comment about his wife. In April, he spoke publicly about the abuse his family has received on social media. And Declan, as any true loving husband would say, my wife is the love of my life. And there is no one better for me, said Declan at the time. This character, and you're looking at it, Danny, in the background there, holding up his phone, as I say, with the image on it. Should it be, in the passing, should we consider it to be a punishable offence?
I don't think so. I don't think it's crossed that line, but I do think that the guy holding it has probably damaged himself more than Declan.
You'd like to think so.
Yeah, because people see that and think, what an idiot, what an immature, stupid guy. But Declan's a great lad. I mean, I know him, you know, his family, they live near me. I see him at the golf club a lot. They're a strong family. I don't think that would bother him. If anything, you just motivate him more to play better and do well. It's childish behaviour, isn't it? But I think you have to put things in perspective, and you have to understand that elite level football and in the public eye and doing the job you do, you can't have all the good stuff without some of the bad. And that doesn't cross a line of punishment for me, showing a picture. You know, I had things said about when I first got with my ex-wife. You know, she was in the public eye as well. I got a lot of stuff said and things, you know. It never felt to me like I'm going to have to tell the police about it. It's just people trying to get in your head. I think we have to be careful. I don't like idiots like that or silly behaviour, but unfortunately, it's a fact of life, and you can't punish everything. I mean, what society do we want to live in? I mean, that it's a bit of, he'll think it's light-hearted. I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
The reality is that's not crossing a line where you have to start talking about police and criminality, is it?
Well, we talk about, and Danny,
well, not necessarily police
what you're saying.
Criminality, but potentially football clubs could say, I don't want that in my stadium.
Absolutely.
And that's one way of reacting to it.
Yeah,
and
is that a space they should go into, Simon?
Maybe. I mean, we can go back. I mean, football, its whole culture is steeped in conflict and confrontation and abuse. And it's about how far you let that abuse go. And, you know, once upon a time, you had to listen, poor David Beckham had to listen to which particular part of his wife's anatomy was available to him from football fans around the stadium. And you get on with it. And whilst it's not nice, it's unkind, it's unpleasant. Sometimes life is unkind and unpleasant. It's a sport that's driven by confrontation. So the Declan, you know, would be best served ignoring it, which he probably will do.
I think he did.
The guy's a moron.
Yeah.
He'll continue to be a moron. And Declan will continue to be a multi-million-pound footballer.
So do you have to accept, even as a top player, and Declan is one of that, there is no doubt, that your family is going to get weaponised by some character like the one we've just seen in the crowd, in the name of tribalism?
Well, I mean, I don't know how they've been weaponised in this context.
We don't know what he said. Also, I mean, what comes out your mouth, you're responsible for, and if that crosses the line, then he deserves to go.
I mean, we saw Declan the other day. I saw him in a game taking a corner, getting absolute dog's abuse. The corner crossed over, went and scored a goal, and he's running away from the fans, laughing at them.
Yeah.
That's the best way to handle it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not nice. It's not pleasant. I've been inside a football stadium when awful things have been said about my family, and you look at it and go, well, first of all, is this person's? I take opinions from people whose opinions are valid, not some rabid football fan that's trying to put me off in the middle of a football match. Yeah. My relationships with my family are important to me, and your opinion of that is irrelevant to me.
Yeah, I mean, this clown has managed to get an image of Declan's wife, it would seem, on his phone. He's gone to the trouble of that, thinking this will affect him if I get that, if I show him that to his face. Have you ever heard anything like it?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of idiots out there. The greatest thing about social media, and whether you love it or hate it, is that situations like this get amplified. And this idiot, it's all over the place now. And he's got to walk around and walk into work the next day. And if he's got kids or whatever, you know, he's the one looking the moron.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it beggars belief, Simon, to me, that someone would go to that length.
Why? But football fans are always singing awful songs to one another. They sing the worst kinds of songs about tragedies. Everything that's on
that stopped a bit.
It's because it's been stopped by the authorities, and it's been consequent. But it still goes on. They sing songs about the opposition. If anyone dares to look at one pound overweight, it's who ate all the pies.
Yeah.
And it's a constant theme. Yeah. And ultimately, anything that's a weak link or a part people conceive to be an Achilles heel for somebody, they're going to exploit.
See, I never ever am affected by any of it. Out in the street, at a match, anything, if anything's ever directed at me.
Either.
Because I laugh at it and I laugh with the person. If the person sees the funny side of it, I couldn't care less. This is split opinion, interestingly. Ian in London, oh, for God's sake, the guy's trying to wind Declan up. Jeez, get a sense of perspective. Yeah, we have.
That's what I said.
But it's moronic.
It is.
There is Stephen. I bet that bloke wouldn't say anything to Declan's face.
Probably asking for an autograph.
He's a coward. Yeah. Absolutely amazed, says Dan the cabbie. Absolutely amazed that Tottenham Hotspur haven't got involved.
They might
and dealt with the individual.
They may well do. They may well say thank you, but no thank you. But it certainly isn't. It certainly, in my view, isn't a police matter, and it isn't a reporting it to the police as so many people seem to want to do in this day and age for the most basic of affronts or offences that they've been taking. In this instance, as a football fan doing something stupid inside the football stadium, it should be the precinct of the football club to say we don't want it, we don't care about it.
Were members of your family ever affected by it, Simon, when you were taking it in the neck? Or you, Danny?
No. My mum stopped going to games quite early because she didn't want to hear people criticise me. Not to her face, but, like, oh, he's crap or he's having a bad day or whatever. And oh, I don't want to hear that, because she'd get too frustrated and want to have a row with everyone. So she just stopped going. Yeah. Which kind of did me a favour in a way, because then you don't want to be worrying about your family when you're playing anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, my brothers, they've had words with people. It's just the way it is. It's the passion that drives football. There's a line.
Yeah.
And most normal, common, decent people know the line.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Is it passion or is it moronic?
That's moronic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Good. We're all agreed on that. See, we're not abusive to you when you're in the studio. But when you're out the studio having a quick break, oh boy, do you come in for it.
I don't doubt it.
It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes.
Adrian, good morning.
Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning, both of you. I've been listening to the show, terrific show this morning, and I don't know how I do it either. But come on, I'm nowhere near your level of mileage.
I'm not sure, mate. I'm not sure. I think it's a close run thing. Adrian, ask the question now. I mean, are Manchester United actually quite good?
They weren't particularly good last night, I've got to say. They weren't great to watch. I mean, it wasn't a brilliant game of football, let's face it. Everton were no better, so it wasn't great. But the one moment of magic, the one real bit of quality was the goal. The ball from Cunha is fantastic. The run from Sesko, sensational. Perfectly weighted pass from Mbeumo, and the first time finish was first class. So it was a brilliant goal and just one brilliant moment. But that's all they needed. Sometimes when you're not playing well and you do that, it's fantastic. And they got the 3 points. For United, it was a bit of a throwback goal, I found. I said this last night on the show. This was, United playing on the counter, winning on the counter, scoring on the counter. And this, in certain times, in Sir Alex Ferguson's reign, that's exactly what Manchester United did. So it was a throwback. Carrick understands the DNA. So there's a lot of positivity right now. Even if they don't quite get it right, Man United, they still managed to pull it out of the fire. So, yeah, all is positive right now.
Adrian, should we be shocked at what Manchester United are doing? I mean, Mbeumo, 71 million, Sesko, 67 million, Cunha, 63 million, all involved in that goal. That's what they should be doing, shouldn't they, for the money that's been spent on them?
It is officially Wednesday lunchtime. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy live in talkSPORT. We're coming to you courtesy of Selco. It's where the trade goes. We're coming to you on your TV as well. Over in Spain at the weekend, many of you are telling me how much you enjoy watching the show. So that is good as far as we are concerned. Even Prime Video, you can watch it as a live TV show, and many of you do just that. In the world of tennis, and Simon, you're a big fan of the sport, as I am, but certainly not as informed as you are. Emma Raducanu has suggested she is in no rush to find a new coach after parting ways with Francisco Roig after the Australian Open. Now, that's one thing, but here's another. The same Emma Raducanu has worked with 9 different coaches since her professional breakthrough in the summer of 2021, the year she won the US Open. Now, though, is in no rush to appoint anyone new. Top tennis commentator Marcus Buckland joins us. Marcus, is this odd? I mean, why is she prepared to take time when I would have thought a coach is integral to someone like Emma and experiencing some more success in her career?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Jim. I think basically she's been through everybody. There's no one left. I mean, as you rightly say, since she burst onto the scene, Nigel Sears was her first coach at pro level. He oversaw her brilliant run to the 4th round at Wimbledon. Then she switched forces, joined up with Andrew Richardson. It basically all went wrong from a coaching point of view from the moment she won the US Open under Richardson, who a couple of days later got a phone call saying, "Thank you very much. We don't require your services anymore." And since then, she's been through 7 more coaches. Francisco Roig, as you mentioned most recently, who enjoyed a huge amount of success with Rafael Nadal. But apparently they were not aligned on certain key aspects. I don't really know what that meant. She says now she wants to be more aggressive again in her on-court approach, play as she did when she was younger. I mean, Jim, the bottom line, she's constantly reevaluating. She's trying to work out exactly what she wants from her game, from her career. What she needs above anything else is a consistent relationship with a coach who she'll listen to and who would hopefully be able to provide a little more consistency for her.
I think Marcus is spot on, Simon. It amazes me that in the time since she won the US Open, she hasn't centered upon someone who she's realized this is the guy, this is going to work, and that someone has agreed with Emma that the partnership will work.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because we've obviously spoken about Emma Raducanu post the US Open, in which she played a style of tennis that most people thought was unsustainable because she just hit winners incessantly and went for her shots in every single shot. And that margin of tennis is very rarely replicated as a reliable go-to sort of default position. But she played so well in that tournament and played... and ultimately, she had a slightly easier run to the final, but notwithstanding it, she still won a slam.
Yeah.
She then decides, as we discussed, about the career path in terms of going out and doing media events, which I always thought was misguided. It's interesting to know perhaps why she parted company with the coach that took her to her first level of success, because 2 months earlier, people like John McEnroe were very critical of her performance at Wimbledon and what kind of character she was. She's never replicated any level of success. She seems to have more value in her digital footprint than her tennis footprint.
Well, Marcus, that's a good point that Simon makes. I'm almost tempted to ask you the question, but I know what the answer is. Does she really need to win on court? When you look at it, she's reportedly in the last couple of days signed a £2.5 million sponsorship deal with Uniqlo. She remains one of the most popular active players in the sport, 2.9 Instagram followers. So advertisers know that. And Emma's very much top of the queue when it comes to potential deals. Other deals she has, Evian, British Airways, HSBC, Porsche, Dior, Tiffany & Co. Companies with bundles of money want Emma to front them, in spite of the fact that she's fairly indifferent when it actually comes to the playing side of things.
I mean, listen, from a business point of view, she's a genius. Her team are a genius. As you say, she's just joined Uniqlo, which is a pretty exclusive brand, having left Nike. We have to remember, from a tennis point of view, since winning the US Open in 2021, well, she reached her first final since then, a few weeks ago, at a relatively low level in Transylvania, and she won only 2 games in that final against Sorana Castilla. Her ranking has sort of hovered. You know, she's been in and around the top 30 of late. Her performances, I've got to be perfectly honest, don't justify the sort of business deals that she's signing. Listen, she did brilliantly back in 2021. Cynics will suggest she had a pretty easy run through to the final, but let's not take anything away from the fact that she won the US Open, and that is no mean achievement. But since then, it hasn't worked, and the obvious criticism has been she's taken her eye off the ball on court. She's been more interested in everything that goes with being a top-class player. So just how much does she want that success on court, Jim? That is the key question, and only she knows the answer to that.
I mean, Simon, it wasn't that long ago that you were saying, no, you don't concentrate on activity away from the court. Concentrate on your playing side of it. But it seems concentrating on the activities away from the court have benefited her financially.
Well, yeah, it depends.
enormously.
Depends what I mean. Ultimately, she can have 2 things at the same time. She can be an elite tennis player and be very well remunerated. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. And so in this situation, I was, I don't want to say that I was right because there's a lot of water flowing under the bridge. But the moment that she was being touted into the Met Ball and all of that stuff in New York and all of the media attention surrounding her, it made me feel that this wasn't someone that was going to be acclimatized to winning very often, because she won a Grand Slam. They're rare as rocking horse to win Grand Slams, but notwithstanding it, especially for British players, she won one, and it was a building block, not Everest. And to my mind, it's become Everest. And there's been a series of other things in the background, hasn't there, Marcus? There's been injuries and other things that have hampered her progress. But I would suggest a major hampering is in between her ears.
Yeah, listen, Simon, you know it. We all know it. Tennis is a brutal sport, and she has had her injury. She had a virus recently, but, you know, she talks about the need to be resilient. She says, I can get knocked down 7 times. I will get up for an 8th time. But she now needs to prove that. And I really do feel that any successful tennis player in particular, over a long period of time, particularly quite early in their journey, which is still the case for Emma, needs somebody she can trust, she can listen to. She'll accept maybe being told what to do by that person. Behind the scenes, her father is a very strong influence as well. So there are red flags, as Dmitry Tursunov, one of her former coaches who's been very successful elsewhere, he worked with her for a few months and said, I saw red flags straight away. She's got to sort that out and be honest with herself if she really wants to maximise her potential.
It seems she's got big decisions to make.
Well, she has. She's 23, and some would say that is not that young in tennis terms.
No.
I mean, it's slightly changed in terms of we don't see, the Hingises and the Tracy Austins and whoever else broke through into the scene really, really early. But do you see her, in your mind's eye, Marcus, can you see her re-establishing herself inside the top 5 in the world and potentially winning a Grand Slam again? Because I don't.
No. Simon, I don't, I'm afraid. I really don't. I mean, what she achieved was fantastic. You've got to seize your opportunity. There are a heck of a lot of women on the tour still who've won 1 major, which is great. But you're right, that should be your building block, not your Everest. And now you look at the likes of Arina Sabalenka and, Rybakina, Coco Gauff, Iga Swiatek. They are dominant forces at the moment. I'm afraid that they are leaps and bounds ahead of Raducanu. I do fear that she will never replicate the glory of that fairy tale in New York in the autumn of 21.
Marcus, a final one from me to you. You know the scene and you know the individuals. Are there many top coaches out there who'd be keen to work with Emma?
Well, that's a good question, Jim. It's a bit of a poison chalice. It's a bit like being asked to become the manager of Watford. You get about 9 months if you're lucky, and then you're out the door. And there were some football analogies a few years back. They sort of suggested, a bit like with Chelsea, we take the best bits from one coach, we learn what we can from that coach, cast them aside, bring in somebody else, and gradually we assimilate the story for ourselves. It doesn't really work like that. So I think a lot of coaches now would be reluctant. Having said that, Watford always have another person who wants to go in through the door. She's a Spurs fan, I say no more.
Say no more. Marcus, brilliant as always to speak to you, top tennis commentator, and he certainly is. Marcus Buckland with us live this lunchtime at 12:30.
You may have seen it on social media, but I, like quite a few of you out there, actually woke up this morning to the sound of a big old baby crying.
It was very interesting. The likes of Goldstein and people on these channels, other channels, diving in, ridiculing, loving it when other people don't do well. That's too far.
No, that's not true.
It is true.
That's not true. I mean,
100%
that's not true. I'm not going to defend Andy Goldstein because it's not in my interest. Or I have any.
Andy, play this later.
But
if you want to be a good presenter and you want to go to the next level, don't take fun from other people losing their demise.
I'm not sure you need to lecture people about how they conduct themselves, Martin. But the fact is that you do that. You have no objectivity. So the reasons why you catch shrapnel is because you lack objectivity. If you are very subjective about situations, you become very defensive of it. No one's got any agenda against Arsenal. Nobody in this studio.
Well, that's where you're wrong. That's naive. Who's naive now? I was talking about somebody who works on this for this network, who for me takes fun.
So
people's
basically,
demise.
your problem was with Andy Goldstein.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Well, anyway, your manager.
Right, I'll put my glasses on so I can read. Firstly, Keown, it's Mr. Goldstein to you. Moaning. Martin Keown moaning like he's been bitten on the backside by Win the Dog. Let me just remind you, Martin Keown, Arsenal just beat the worst Spurs team ever, and you're screaming about it. A few days ago, you drew with bottom place Wolves, and the so-called invincible Martin Keown, by the way, started just 3 games that season, 2 more than David Bentley, so calm down, starts crying like a tiny baby version of Kevin Keegan.
Eddie Howe has no doubt Newcastle can raise their game, whoever they get in the Champions League last 16.
We have to believe in ourselves, but I think we've seen the best of ourselves this year when we've gone into cup games and one-off games where we've been able to really rise to whatever challenge we've had in front of us.
It's either Chelsea or Barcelona for Newcastle next. Tonight we've got Real Madrid versus Benfica live on talkSPORT. In the Championship, James Morrison's in interim charge of West Brom following Eric Ramsey's sacking. Swansea co-owner Snoop Dogg was very happy to see Liam Cullum's 95th minute equaliser on his first visit. But Preston boss Paul Heckingbottom hardly noticed the famous rapper.
No, I think just the smell of weed in the tunnel is the only thing that we realise something different.
Meanwhile, Hull City boss Sergei Yakirovich told us their stadium share with Rugby League's Hull KR is forcing him to change tactics.
This is impossible because between Chelsea and today they had 2 games, I think, 2 trainings.
Yakirovich told us it's difficult to control the ball at the MKM, but Hull are up to 4th with a 4-2 win over Derby. And Harry Redknapp's told us if Spurs don't get their act together, they'll be on for a famous season for all the wrong reasons.
Burnley are still having a go, but it's going to be tough for them. But, you know, Wolves, unfortunately, they're gone, but that other spot is wide open. Certainly Tottenham, West Ham are very much involved.
For all the latest, head to talksport.com.
And they're off. Win a trip to Cheltenham, Alan Brazil style, on talkSPORT.
Now then, if you fancy joining talkSPORT at the famous Cheltenham Festival or the Gold Cup Day, here's your chance to do it. We're giving away the ultimate hospitality experience for 2 on Friday, March the 13th. Full day of VIP treatment, 4-course lunch, complimentary bar all day, celebrity tips, there's a lot more. It's the best way to experience the races. You'll even get to meet some of the talkSPORT team on site if you're truly unlucky. You'll have it until 4 o'clock this Friday to get your entries in. Here's how you do it. For your chance to win this, text WIN, W-I-N, to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. The number to call 0343 418 7260. Lines close Friday at 4 o'clock. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. It's a talkSPORT promotion. Full terms, conditions at talksport.com. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy, live on talkSPORT as we hit the home straight this Wednesday lunchtime. Simon, when you were scrapping with Deontay Wilder, I was up in Newcastle recently, and we enjoyed great hospitality at St James's Park. We spoke to the chief executive of Newcastle United, David Hopkinson, who is a thoroughly impressive individual. And we got onto the subject of St James's Park itself and its future.
The truth is we haven't decided. St. James is a magical place. It's going to be an extraordinary place here Saturday when we play our next match. It's 53,000. We think we could be bigger. And that, of course, is revenue. Now, that's a major investment. We haven't made the final decision on what we're going to do here. We are working on this every day, deciding whether it's here, whether it's a new site, whether it's a reno or a new stadium. But we have got an opportunity that we're pursuing, and we're working on it every day.
If you stay here, David, and I want to push you on this, everybody loves this place. How much bigger could it become? How many more seats do you envisage you could put in?
At least 10,000. We all of our modeling, all of our best modeling today, all the capacity starts in the 65 to 68,000 range. I don't think bigger than that is good, but we also want to make sure if we're going to do something, it's material and significant. 10 to 15,000 here would be right.
So Newcastle, Simon, looking to embark on what would be a major regeneration project as part of their plans to build a new £1 billion stadium in the city.
Yep.
The second option could see a stadium with a capacity of up to 70,000. But the club has already held conversations with the government about securing public money to help fund the project. Manchester United have unveiled plans to build a Wembley of the North with a mooted capacity of 100,000, which is set to cost £2 billion. And both Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Newcastle's PIF owners have now told the government that the stadium is their bill, but the regeneration, transport, housing and infrastructure should be a public-private partnership. I'm wondering here, is there any issue, or do you have any issue, with football clubs using taxpayer money to facilitate the building of their new homes?
Of course, it's a commercial proposition. Why would public money go towards regenerating a football stadium? I know that there'll be an idea that somehow that regeneration comes as a result of a football stadium being at the centre of it, and they might have some arguments to that.
Well, it would regenerate the surrounding
and I'm
area.
sure the Rubens will be right in the centre of that
City
and have an
centre.
opportunity to do some property deals, which is perhaps the reason why they bought a part of Newcastle in the first place. No, I don't see a case for it. I don't see an argument for it. This is a commercial proposition. If you want to build a stadium, in the same way that it was pushed back on, and it was dressed up. They were going to relocate the railway tracks, weren't they? Which was then going to be public money. So there was going to be some public money thrown in to the Manchester United equation, because they had to move a particular rail place. I forget what the terminology was. It was a storage yard of some shape or description where rolling stock was kept, wasn't it? And it was going to be moved somewhere else in Manchester, and it was dressed up as a necessity when really it was a byproduct of Man United redeveloping their football stadium. So
But Manchester United said their pitch, regards to public money, would mean a £7.3 billion boost to the economy. Newcastle are pitching the modernisation of traditional heartlands. So they're both saying
it'd be interesting.
the areas will benefit.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how that stacks up and how they bear those figures out and what the budgeting behind that was. Because I remember Arsenal building a football stadium, they didn't get any public money, did they? They had to rehouse and relocate and had to build the railway lines and do all of that at their expense. Hence the reason why the Emirates come out at such a huge bill at some particular point. I don't think so, but it would be interesting. It's very easy to throw around numbers about the generation of benefits of society, but the bigger benefits are yours. You're doing this for your own reasons and your own motivations and your own outcomes. And so I'm a little bit loath
There's no precedent for it, is there? I don't think there's anybody at a football club had.
I don't think so. I mean, we've just seen, and again, I don't care how many twerps on social media jumping up and down telling me I'm wrong, that there was a Welsh regeneration fund that gave £18 million to Wrexham Football Club, which in part regenerates the area. And I understand, of course, the argument that there's value in it, but the principal value of this opportunity is that of the football clubs and the gain that they have as a result of it. And one thing that we're not talking about here and should be talking about is that the Saudis have played nicely with the football establishment, have played by the rules in terms of not pushed the envelope or created any issues about their ownership model and how they should be able to do precisely what they wanted, in the same way that they did when they tried to influence government to influence the purchase in the first place, which we all know happened with Boris Johnson. So the one thing they can do to enhance Newcastle United Football Club and give them the opportunity to be at the top table, which doesn't take anything away from PSR, is build a new stadium. Get on with it.
Yeah.
Build a new stadium.
Simple as. Danny, I had a few football conversations over in Spain over the weekend. This came up a couple of times. Grappling, wrestling at corner kicks, does it need clamping down upon? Or has it become a part of a team's armoury, if you like, their approach in a game? Former referee Graham Scott, in his Telegraph column, enough already. Corner kicks in football are becoming a farce that's impossible to police and ruining the spectacle. Action is needed. For solutions, I would imitate hockey by forcing teams to place a certain number of players in the other half. It need not be many, but it would create space. In other words, the scene inside the box is way too congested and there's all sorts of goings on that shouldn't be going on, and it's got to stop. Is he right?
I don't think so. My gut feeling is that it can be managed better. And now we've got VAR and it's here to stay and we've got to embrace it. Let's use it to its max. The problem we've got is on a lot of these situations with the corners, the punishments aren't there for a lot of what's going on. And a part of the reason is, and I understand it from the officials, is that they don't want to be constantly having interruptions and free kicks, but it's a short-term. You've got short-term chaos.
Yeah,
will create a better long-term. If you start, so for example, if a defender is facing the other way and not looking at the ball, even if he's not committing a foul, you can give one. For example, that, you know, he's not no intention to play the ball and I'm stopping Simon and the ball's behind me, you can give a penalty because you've got no intention to play the ball.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
Obstruction of the goalkeepers, which is one of the big things he's talking about, I'm assuming, is just everyone blocking the goalkeeper. Well, if he gets blocked and it's an obstruction, give the foul. I just think if we officiate it more strictly and do it much better, even for a while, if it seems a bit chaotic, you will then get a
you could end up seeing a few penalties given in that same game.
Fine, but what we do too often is we bring in these rules, or we're gonna cut this out and cut that out, and they do temporarily, and they don't stick to it. And that's where the problem is. I don't think it. Look, I can't be. I used to be very much football's great how it is, never change it.
Yeah.
If someone comes up with something that really is clever and, you know, can take this away and help the officials better, fair enough, I'm open-minded to it. But my gut feeling is it just needs managing better. Because I see so many, I mean, obviously my job, we do it every week. We go through all the nearly decisions and then we ask the officials and they give their opinion and we give ours. And 90% of them are pretty easy. You know, 90% of them are pretty easy.
You see, they went hard on it early, Dan.
Yeah.
And then they've eased off a bit. Graham Scott again says, all too predictably, after an initial flurry of 3 penalties in August, there have been 4 awarded since.
They panic.
And as you use the word, it's chaos in there.
Yeah, they panic because what they don't want to do is face the criticism of giving too many penalties and, you know, they're so worried about numbers instead of implementing what the rule is. Right. If you're obstructing, if you're fouling. The other thing, one little aspect to it or caveat to it is I asked an official recently why, you know, when you see a corner and you'll see the ref before the corner comes in, he'll go in and tell a couple of people off for grappling.
Yeah.
Right? Or they'll tell someone off for being too close to the keeper or pushing them and all that. And the reason they do that is because their aim when they referee generally is to prevent things happening before they happen. My feeling would be to forget the prevention thing. Just consequence it. Let them do what they want to do. And if you see it, don't care if the ball's in play or not, consequence it.
Right.
Because if the ball wasn't in play and you punch someone in the face, you'd be sent off. So don't worry about this prevention and trying to keep everyone happy and giving people a little, come on, you two, get yourself sorted. Let them do it, punish it. Punish it, punish it, punish it. And each time you do it, people start looking. The problem is you can't do it half-hearted. It's like anything in life, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you do it half-hearted, it won't work.
Well, again, Scott says a more radical move would be to use the 6-yard box to keep the players apart until the corner's taken. Defenders would have to start inside and attackers outside. I mean, how do you marshal that?
That's another level of
It's another problem, yeah. And also then what do you do if the guy just pings it to the edge of the box for someone to have a free shot?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you've got this big charge. You completely change the dynamic of the game. Defending corners and attacking corners is a great part of the game. I enjoy watching the chaos. Like the United-Arsenal game the other day is where this has come from. The United-Arsenal game was a great example of a goalkeeper being very competent and looking after himself and actually doing things right to stop.
Yeah.
It wasn't United-Arsenal. It was your Everton-Arsenal, wasn't it?
Right.
Sorry,
On Monday night.
Yeah, Everton.
Everton
Jesus,
United.
Yeah. It's been a long day.
Lemons did his job,
Everton Man United.
Yeah.
That's what's triggered this article.
The thing is, if penalties are given, penalty after penalty after penalty, is analysts like your good self, I would dare to suggest,
create a problem there afterwards.
That will be all over the officials.
And then that's down to us to talk to the officials and actually go, no, do you know what? They're doing the right thing. This is nonsense. You can't have players doing that.
Yeah.
And I think if you've got to be that's good communication. I mean,
how many times in your games with Liverpool were you told, stop him getting his head to that?
Not very often.
No matter what.
Too small, aren't I? I wasn't that one. But we used to I remember doing set plays where you'd work on blocking, obstructions, blocking their fouls. The difference back then was there was no VAR. Now we've got it. We can stop it.
Yeah.
You know, I know it's chaotic.
Yeah.
But that's what we've got it for. And that's, as I said, do it properly and it will reduce.
Okay. So now you want VAR. Just checking.
I'm stuck with it, isn't it?
12:45.
if they finish 20 points behind second?
Oh, well, then that's different. But
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you know they've had an unbelievable run if they finish third and they lose the last 4 games.
That's what I mean. All of a sudden, Villa could fall off a cliff. Chelsea could. Liverpool could. Honestly, no, look, if you don't like the answer, don't ask the question. I think that conversation needs to be a place because depends who comes available, right? Depends who comes available in that. We don't know what might happen. I'm just saying.
Let's go to Bob. He's a Man United fan. Bob.
All right, Bob.
All right, boys.
All right,
I normally come on here bashing United, and this is music to talkSPORT's ears.
What do you mean?
Right, Sesko, what a player. No one's talking about this. He's Ruud van Nistelrooy in the making. And I tell you what's going to happen. You know, like when Ronaldo come back to United and Cavani give the number 7 shirt back over, well, Mason Mount is going to hand-deliver that number 7 to Sesko. Now, I find it insulting that before I come on, there was a presenter saying a £200 million goal. If Manchester City scored a goal or Arsenal, money wouldn't be mentioned, so that's an insult.
No, I don't think it is. No. I think it's no. I think it's a good point worth making because all 3 of those players were signed in the summer and they've all underperformed really. But that pass from Cunha into Mbeumo and into Sesko, that was a brilliantly executed and taken goal. I don't know where you're getting all touchy.
I don't know. Mbumo's played great all season. Yeah. Sesko had a bit of a slow start, right? And now I'm seeing what can be made. The one-on-one with the goalkeeper.
Jim White, Simon Jordan, Danny Murphy, live on talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes. Before we go today, I don't know, shall we make Tottenham fans feel better about life this Wednesday lunchtime or that bit worse? Danny, do you think one of your former clubs, Tottenham Hotspur, will end up relegated?
No. My gut feeling says that they've got too much quality. It doesn't mean it can't happen, but I'd say no. I think they're looking at the fixtures. There's some games there I'd expect them to pick up enough points. So, I think they'll be okay just.
Mr. Jordan?
What do I think? I think if they lose to Fulham and Palace, they're in mortal danger.
Yeah.
And I think if they lose those 2 games, it's one thing getting your backsides handed to you against Arsenal.
Yeah.
It's another thing losing against... I mean, I know Fulham are a good side, don't get me wrong, but they've got to get points out of Fulham and Palace. So if they lose both those games, I think they're in real trouble.
They've got to stop losing games, first and foremost.
Yeah, so they're flushing with it. Tottenham's owners are said to be planning a shake-up of the club's rigid wage structure this summer if the team avoids relegation. I can tell you more about that. There's an acknowledgement within the club that Spurs have underinvested in players' salaries for years. Did I hear you say, Danny, can you share that with us, that by comparison, when you had your spell at Tottenham, you weren't earning maybe the big money that people might have thought you might have been? You took a pay cut to go there.
I did actually, yeah, from Charlton. But I did know what some of the other lads were earning, and obviously coming from Liverpool and stuff, it wasn't comparable.
Yeah.
To some of the boys up at Liverpool, but I mean, that's always been the way. So I think, there's a history there with them being frugal in the wage department. I mean, I think the numbers tell us that, don't they, in terms of turnover to...
Well, they do. Tottenham's wage bill at the moment is the lowest of the so-called Big Six. It was 222 million, Simon, in the most recently published account.
42%, isn't it?
Something right. Yeah. It's half of Manchester City's spend in that area in the same period.
The percentage is more the notable number, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Rather than the amounts. Because it's still a lot of money, let's put it in perspective.
Yeah.
But the 44%, what it is compared to what are the big boys at? 80%?
No, they're 65% Man City.
Okay.
But Man City are about 200 odd million bigger turnover, if not more.
Right.
I mean, this wonderful badge of honour, how much money you can spend, is quite horrific, really, isn't it? But the fact is, that's the scale that you're measured upon. You mean the real owners of Tottenham Hotspur, the real owners that have been the real owners for 25 years, that have been the intellectual capital behind the implementation.
The Lewis family.
Yeah, the real owners.
Right.
That are still the real owners, that have always been the real owners, that have always been the majority shareholders, that would have sanctioned, been intellectually involved and invested in all of the principles that their previous front of house, Daniel Levy, was doing. These guys. These guys that were very ambitious and were going to push their club on, but spent bugger all in the January transfer window. Those guys.
Yes.
Those guys.
Do we sniff a sense of sarcasm
they sold
in
a
your
player.
tone?
They sold
They
bought Conor Gallagher with a Brennan Johnson money.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's absurd. I'm not going to keep defending Daniel Levy because it gives me into the accusation that somehow I'm representing him in a conversation. But let's have it right. This is silly. It's the blind leading the deaf.
Well, let me put it this way then. A source close to the owners, the Lewis family, said the Lewis family recognised greater investment in salaries was needed because finishing positions in the league correlate more closely to wages than to transfer spending.
Gee, that was insightful stuff from them. The two things are inextricably indexed because you buy big players and your wages go up. So the cost are one and the same thing. But the wage structure was something they would have sanctioned. This is ridiculous. It's a wolf in wolf's clothing. It's a nonsense argument. They were the majority shareholders. Daniel Levy worked for them, as was proven to be the case, because they fired him.
No, he's not sort of bringing an argument up. He's saying that from now on they're gonna try and bring it up and compete.
Right. But why didn't they bring it up previously then?
Well,
why is this wonderful revelation? Because they're playing to a gallery whilst they're positioning themselves for a sell.
Is that what you think?
Yeah.
But do you feel, Sam? I think the more relevant question is: do they not need to pivot?
Of course. Did they not need to pivot 3 years ago then? This has always been the case. This has been the case for a very long time. I mean, how can he go from scabby old Charlton to Tottenham and get less money? Right? So with due respect, the bottom line is it's always been that way that Tottenham have played, and it's been that way since Alan Sugar walked through the door, took over from Irvin Scholar and said, this football club doesn't lose money anymore. We run it as a basis of a business. ENIC came in, deployed the same logic, but ENIC is Joe Lewis.
Of course.
And Joe Lewis has sanctioned the way this football club has been run. So it's all well and good having this epiphany now. Why didn't you have this epiphany 3 or 4 years ago?
Well, because couldn't you argue 3 or 4 years ago they punch above the weight, they're round of Champions League spots, they're doing all right. You know, it's like you just kind of...
Well, have that argument with the Spurs fans.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong, you've often admired the way this football club is run.
I think it's, but I think ultimately...
So if you admire that, you admire the way the Lewis family has gone about it.
I think the balance is wrong. I've always said the balance is wrong. I've always said that it is a necessity, and I've said it repeatedly, that they built this wonderful spaceship, it probably needs a different captain. And that by different captain, it means a different owner. But what I'm objecting to, insofar as I'm objecting to anything, is this rewriting of history and this repositioning of yourself as if you had nothing to do with all the decisions that were involved in the way Tottenham Hotspur was run for 25 years, and now all of a sudden you've woken out of your sleeping partner, coma-like state, and suddenly decided, aha, what, this was going on? No. Right, pack it in. You're just playing to a gallery. That's what you're doing. Get on with it then. Get on with it then.
Yeah.
You told everybody you were going to get on with it. So why don't you go spend a ton of money in January to be able to supplement a playing squad that clearly needs it?
So it's down to them. Do you think they will change? Say they survive in the Premier League this season. Are they, as from what you've been saying about the way they've operated for so many years, should we really believe the Lewis family is going to change the way they run the club?
Well, if someone shows you what they are, there's a distinct possibility you should believe them, right?
Right.
And so your track record is there. You can get old Kaiser Solskjaer out of retirement, Daniel Levy, and keep on blaming him if you want, or you can look at the real capital behind Tottenham Hotspur, which is these guys. They told you that they were going to back this football club. They told you in the summer that it needed a new opportunity, and silverware was part of it, right? And what did they spend in January when clearly they're in trouble? They're banging trouble. What did they spend? Nothing. They sold a player to buy a player. So it's a clear angle of attack because everybody knows that Tottenham Hotspur running a 42% wage to turnover ratio was frugal at best, was probably mean-spirited at worst, comparing themselves to what the fans think they are, which is a top 6 club. If you're a top 6 club, you can't be an outlier. You might be able to work an oracle once, but you're not Harry Potter. These aren't wands. You're going to have to meet fire with fire. And if you're so far distant from your competitors and you want to be in that space, you're going to have to adjust the landscape. So it doesn't take It doesn't take someone with a telescope to work that out.
Having said that, you and I were both in Madrid. They got themselves to a Champions League final with this rigid wage structure.
And what then? Why? But we're not talking about 5 minutes.
But then they didn't kick on, did they? He did an amazing job.
They didn't kick on.
And Leicester won the Premier League, and they're going to go into League One possibly. So we can all talk about what happened in the past. It's about sustainability. If you want to be a Big Six club and a club that competes regularly for the end game, which is either being in Europe, winning something or another, then it isn't just winning the badge of best won football club economically. Because you have to put some skin on the table. You have to turn around and say, there's got to be a margin here. And if you put accountants running businesses, with due respect to Daniel, who I think is brilliant in some respects and not in others, you need to have a little bit more of push and pull and a bit more risk on the table to try and achieve what the fans want. The fans couldn't care less if you're economically stable. I'll tell you what, get rid of them, get Qatari ownership.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So we'll be owned by the Middle East, shall we?
When Danny joined Tottenham 20 years ago, there was no word about, I'm happy about the money and offer. Danny, you made all the right noises. I think Tottenham in the foreseeable future have great ambitions to win trophies and fight for the Champions League spots to be in European competition. This is the type of level of football I want to be playing in again.
Yeah, well, they were in the Champions League spaces when I went there, and then we fell out of it.
The man responsible for that is with us live in the studio. Danny, not at all. Mr. Murphy, brilliant as always. Thanking you, sir.
Thank you.
As for you, I'll see you tomorrow, and you're going to tell Daniel Dubois to his face you think Fabio smashes
If I don't, you'll no doubt point me in that direction.
You better will. It's 1 o'clock.
And that's when you can find a way to make decisions, because ultimately you're seeing the best version of Michael Carrick, you're seeing the best version of Man United against what you've seen before. And the previous caller was right. It makes other people look poor.
But what you do have with Michael Carrick is you have a frame of reference, don't you, Liam, who's just phoned us? And the frame of reference is the fact that, hey, he's doing very well at the moment, coming into a difficult situation. He has managed